Good evening and welcome to the Burbank Police Commission regular meeting scheduled for this evening, January 15th, 2025 at 6 p.m. Before we begin, I'd like to go ahead and just give a reminder about the public comment options. To speak during public comment, members of the public may speak for 3 minutes in person in council chambers, or they may call 818-238-3335. That's 818-238-3335. Members of the public who attend the meeting in meeting chamber will speak first, followed by those phoning in their comments. And there are either white or yellow comment cards. So if you do have a comment that you'd like to make, please go ahead and hand that to Ms. Nakamura. So we're going to go ahead and start with our call to order and roll call. We're starting the meeting now. And Ms. Nakamura, if you can go ahead and process the roll call, please.
Commissioner Chapman?
Present.
Chair Coons?
Here.
Commissioner Ellman?
Here.
Commissioner Feruzin? Commissioner Hakobian?
Present.
Commissioner McKenna? And Commissioner Wenzel.
Present.
Thank you. Layla has offered to do our flag salute this evening, so we'll go ahead and have you lead us in that. Before we go into the regular commission meeting, I'm going to ask for us to take a brief moment of silence in acknowledgement of a number of different groups of folks. The first is all of those who have lost homes and those who have been evacuated. This has been an unprecedented disaster in the Los Angeles area. I also want to acknowledge all of our first responders who have been responding, including the city of Burbank has been sending folks from our fire department, our police department, and also Burbank Water and Power. So if we can just take a moment of silence in recognition of all of these folks. Thank you. We're going to go ahead and move on to commission announcements, item C, which is commission announcements and reporting out by commissioners and ad hoc subcommittees. We'll go ahead and start all the way to my left. Romik, if you want to go ahead and start.
Nothing specific to report. Just a big thank you to the police department and also the fire department for, responding to the current disasters and assisting with the fires and the commitment and service level. Really appreciate that. Just want to put that out there and thank you again.
Thank you, Roman. Paul?
I'll follow the same sentiments. I think that,
Microphone? There you go.
I've never been told I wasn't loud enough.
For
I
the
follow the
audience at
same
home.
sentiments. I believe that our hearts go out to all those who were suffered greatly, and those of us, most of us in Burbank, we were mainly inconvenienced, which is quite a blessing. So we thank you all for your service.
Nothing to report, but the same comments made by the previous commissioners.
Thank you. For me, the holiday season was pretty busy. The one thing I did get to do is I got a chance to interact a little bit with Burbank PD officers in preparation to move the Rose Parade float out to Pasadena for New Year's Day. So thank you for your help with that.
Yeah, for myself, not much to report either, just, again, echoing sentiments from other folks and feeling very fortunate that we, as Paul said, we were mostly just inconvenienced, but my heart goes out to all the folks who are, who have been touched by this, and again, to all the folks who have been working 24/7, days on end. Yes, thank you.
Mike?
My sentiments all the way down the row here. One other thing I'd like to add is at our last meeting in November, we had Sergeant Lautner give a presentation on domestic violence. And one of the responsibilities I took on was to check into the possibilities of putting some ad or source reference into the Burbank Water and Power bill as an insert or whatever. And I've discussed that with him. I have some information when we're ready to talk about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ann?
On the national news, there was always the map of our area, and you could see how close Burbank was to Palisades, and it looked like we were close, and we are close. And then to have Burbank be so, if you will, saved, I really think that we were very blessed I think we are lucky to have first responders who were able to go pitch in. I went with my husband and we took some donations over, we were talking before, took some donations down to the equestrian center. And I couldn't believe the number of people who were well-trained, knowledgeable, who had come from all over to help. So again, I keep those in mind who are less fortunate.
Appreciate that. Thank you. We're going to go ahead and move on to item D, which is oral communications. These are going to be for 3 minutes per person. I have 3 cards here. If you are in the audience and want to hand in a card, please do so with Ms. Nakamura, and then we will take the phone comments after that. So the first public comment is coming from Jason Lewis. Mr. Lewis, welcome.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners, and I also want to give my thanks. I didn't expect to be here to say this, but I did bring my kids, and with the mayor, and we brought some of our gratitude to the first responders, police, fire, Burbank Water and Power, and our tree trimmers. So we were not inconvenienced that much because of those people, and I thank you. That's not why I'm here, and I did not expect to be here to say that, but I'm glad I am. But I'm here to talk about, which most of you know me very well about this, is school safety and safety around school. As a licensed mechanical engineer, I know that the city's departments work together along with road safety. Our public works put safeguards in place like signs, lines, bollards, and curbs. And our first responders are called when the safety guards aren't enough or are ignored. And someone's once told me that the first 2 weeks of school set the tone. And unfortunately, Walt Disney Elementary, this has been missing our crossing guard these first 2 weeks, George Contreras, because he's out sick. And it sets a bad tone, and when we're missing a key piece of our traffic engineering during a critical time. And I got to talk about an incident that happened yesterday where I noticed a car that honked really loud, and it disturbed the parents crossing the street and dropping off their kids, among which I was one of them. And I looked up and saw a gray Tesla driving the wrong way on Mariposa North. And I was walking home and didn't think any of it until I passed by the exact same Tesla parked perpendicular to a driveway of the kindergarten drop-off area, blocking access to the handicap parking stall. I walked back and I kindly asked her if she was going to move her car. The driver refused to move and invited me to call the city when I pointed out that she was violating the green, the white, and the blue zones with her parking. And I started recording her position when she told me to call the city, and I kept it. And now to the response, since the traffic engineering wasn't enough. The responding officer called me back after I saw him pass by because there was a busy scene around the school, which it always is. And even though that I had made the call and waved him down, he spoke alone with the driver and her husband, who wasn't there when the incident had started, and she had called him to the scene. And after showing the driver and the officer the video that I recorded, he told me that she was not wrong because she was not blocking anyone specifically accessing the parking spot, and that this was a civil matter between us. Now, I left and I thanked them for their time because I understand that these were young parents, and the reason why this is such an issue for me is I do know that traffic and parking is a very contested issue, especially at Walt Disney Elementary. We have no on-campus parking, ironically enough, except for the handicap spot that was being blocked. And there's a city park across the street, and we're right parallel to Victory, which is a main thoroughfare in our city. And the city, a part of an exercise I was a part of as a transportation commissioner, moved the bike parking to the sidewalk behind the new building on Clark as to not interfere with the parking that is very heavily negotiated, including drop-off in front of the school on Clark Street. Now, instead of near the student gates, I should say. And now I'm here not to merely complain, because there's no issue here. I just want to point out that we need, in many cases, to have all of our systems working together for them to be effective, and I did not want to call during a time like this. And I even told dispatch many times, if this is not urgent or if they're busy, please don't send someone. So thank you for your time, and have a good evening.
Mr. Lewis, thank you. Our next comment is coming from Councilmember Suzette Mullins. Councilmember Mullins, thank you for joining us.
Good evening, Chair Coombs, Commissioners. It's a little different look to be standing here. So, Happy New Year. I wanted to come and share with you, and I'm sure maybe you have been notified already, that last night, the City Council, we went through our appointments for liaisons for commissions and boards and committees. And I'm happy to report that I held my seat and I am still representing you. And now we have Council Member Rizzotti is going to be joining me as well. He's not here right now, But, so you're either going to be seeing myself or Councilmember Rosati will be attending the meetings and continue the emails that we receive from you with update, Mr. Chair. So we appreciate all the emails that we receive. So if you need anything, I am your liaison along with Councilmember Rosati. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's congratulations. And,
Yes. Well, I could have given it up, but I didn't want to.
All right.
So this is near and dear to my heart,
Thank you.
and that's why I continue serving, and I want to see whatever I can do to assist and work with you. And I thank you for all the work you do and all the efforts that you put in representing our police department.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
We look forward to you joining us in the conversation on item 5 later on
Okay.
this evening as well. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Our final comment, our public comment from the audience is Mr. David Donahue. Mr. Donahue, welcome back.
Good evening, Commissioner Coombs, Chair Coombs, and Commissioners. My name is David Donahue, resident business owner. One of the things that you just mentioned a moment ago is the Los Angeles Equestrian Center. I was there for 3 hours today helping out the unofficial Rancho Mayor, Miss Liz Radley. And I had been the first time, like you said, what's going on there is the most organized ballet of chaos and drama you can imagine, with 360 additional horses, total of 600 horses and more. They have a need. They have a need for being able to, not only for the Los Angeles Equestrian Center to be able to store all the additional items. They don't need carrots or apples. They don't need carrots or apples. I'm just repeating because it's like chocolate to a kid. They'll eat it until they get sick. So that's what happened with horses. They need places to store hay. They need places to store additional donated items. I was there again for a couple hours, and I saw truckload after truckload after truckload emptying just everything you can imagine, and they're overflowing. Just like we've heard from other sort of places that have been taking donations, they just get overwhelmed, and they have to kind of stop it. One of the things I want to kind of bring up to this board is something I have a while ago, and that is e-bikes. I know it's an ongoing issue. Well, guess what? Christmas came, and the kids got bigger e-bikes. They got them faster. They now are having helmets. They have no lights. They have no license plate, and they are passing me on the road. And so I know this is, thankfully, this commission has embraced it, with Commissioner McKenna also spearheading this and sharing his personal insight. It's not going away until we have a better reclassification. I forget if it was Chief Albanese at the time who was talking about that if they're at certain speeds and certain categories, which we've discussed before, certain categories of e-bikes should have and should be licensed. But I don't know how we do something about that. I'm just hoping something could maybe be discussed before somebody gets hurt. And we just need to kind of put some caps on those. The other part of it is if there's anything you can do for the Los Angeles Equestrian Center, any sort of resources, it's a fantastic place. They're a great neighbor. And I've I brought this up to City Council last night, so Mayor Perez and Vice Mayor Takahashi both very kindly said that they wanted to see what they could do, so we're excited about that. And I have also sent out the invitation to Councilmember Mullins, and I do believe she and I might be actually doing a field trip there tomorrow. So thank you for your service, and have a wonderful evening.
Mr. Donahue, thank you. Do we have any telephone callers?
No calls pending.
Thank you. So we're going to go ahead and move on to Commission response to public comment, and we'll do it again, start all the way from my left. And Romik, if you want to go ahead and start, if you have any responses to any of the public comment.
I do. Thank you, Chair Coombs. Just a response to Mr. Lewis. Traffic safety out, of course, in front of schools is a big concern. I know that me, Commissioner Wenzel, and McKenna we met in the past with Superintendent Paramo in regards to this conversation. I'm thinking that maybe we can go back and revisit this conversation because, I mean, this is definitely not going to go away. And I know we've been working on a driver safety campaign as well to see how we can implement that and make it a bigger conversation. So just want to put that out there. And I appreciate you coming in. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. And next, Mr. Donahue, in regards to e-bikes, I know on the agenda on the third item, We're going to get a preliminary report on electric scooters and the e-bike regulations, thanks to Commissioner Kent McKenna. So really looking forward to that conversation to see what that's like and see what else questions we can ask for you. And by the way, thank you so much for everything that you're doing. Like every time I open up Facebook, you're sharing a resource, you're sharing information, you're trying to help as many people as you can with what you know. So thank you for being a big advocate, especially during this time. And finally, Councilmember Mullins, super happy we get to work with you again. You know, been a wonderful thought partner. Looking forward to working with Councilmember Verzati. Had some conversations with them in the last few weeks, so it's going to be exciting. So thank you guys for everything you do.
Paul, any comments?
Yes. First of all, Mr. Lewis, thank you for bringing that to our attention. I'm assuming it's traffic, but who facilitates the crossing guards? I mean, is there not I hate to say substitute crossing guard or a provision in place for someone calling in sick?
Our traffic bureau does manage our crossing guards. Nobody taught me how to use this thing. There you go. I also didn't read the manual. So our traffic bureau does manage the crossing guards. There are not as many crossing guards as we would like to cover every school. So sometimes when one is off sick, there may not be a pool of candidates to shift. If we're going to shift somebody to cover that absence, then we're creating an absence elsewhere.
Understood. As Mr. Lewis knows, I'm very familiar with Disney Elementary, and there is no parking, but there is abundance of parking across the Clark. So and even when they were coming down to the one lane on Olive, and they said that there weren't any schools on Clark, I was quick to correct them back when I was on the Transportation Commission that yes, there is a school in Clark, and that is a primary avenue. So thank you for bringing that attention. Thank you for being prudent. Please don't get yourself in trouble with your fellow parents. I know that could be a slippery slope. Thank you. Councilmember Mullins, thank you for being here. We look forward to working with you again. And Mr. Donahue, obviously you know, there have been a number of laws passed, and actually Councilmember Mullins and I have spoken about them offline. There are things that are changing legally. There are some of the bicycles you're talking about don't have pedals, and that makes them not electric bicycles. That makes them mopeds, in my opinion. And actually, one of the conversations I had with Councilmember Anthony was that maybe we can look into them as having a moped license or something, so some way to regulate. Because to me, it's 90% of the problem is the undocumented part of it. There's no control. There's no checks and balances. So, but you're absolutely correct, as you very well know, and you saw my bike. All the things that the chief said were supposed to be there. I bought it from Amazon. It's a pretty reputable company, and none of those stickers or limitations, none of that is there. So the rules aren't being followed. Technology has exceeded our legislation, and we need to catch up. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Mike?
I'd like to thank our speakers for coming tonight. Mr. Donahue, it's
He's
on.
Just got to get closer. There you go.
Mr. Donahue, there is a classification in the vehicle code for e-motorcycle, and an e-motorcycle has to be licensed and registered. And I would like to, I know what you're saying, because a lot of times when I come to this meeting down Glen Oaks, I'm being passed. And since I see them with no license plate and no registration, that's reason enough that something should happen. Mr. Lewis, I'm not familiar with the Walt Disney Elementary, but I live next to Jefferson Elementary. And whatever you're saying goes true to Jefferson also. What I would really like to see is an increase of the parking control people around the schools in the morning and when they let out. See if we can alleviate the problem with parking control rather than sending officers. Councilwoman Mullins, welcome back. Hopefully it works out.
Always does.
Anyways, thank you all for coming tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. We'll go ahead and keep moving on. Layla?
Yeah, thank you everyone for coming out tonight and sharing your thoughts with us and your concerns especially. Again, welcome back to Councilmember Mullins and look forward to working with Councilmember Rosati. And I think others have spoken eloquently around the e-bike issue, so I'll defer to that. But I would just say for Mr. Lewis that I believe it's next month, we're going to be talking a bit about, I have a discussion item around traffic safety, and I'll be sharing some findings that I have around, particularly around schools and pickup and drop-off times and things like that. So I hope you were able to tune in or come back. And happy to discuss after as well if you're here. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming this evening. I've got several e-bikes in my neighborhood, and I've got somebody on my shoulder on this side and says, look at that, it looks like a lot of fun. And this side it says, no, that's pretty dangerous. And I'm a little bit concerned, especially with traffic in our area and the kids. Maybe we can review this again sometime in the future with the new legislation you were talking about. And we may want to include a suggestion as to educating schools, sending maybe something through John Paramo, getting something so that the word gets out to the students. So, good, and thank you again.
Mike, thank you. Ann?
Thank you, guys. Mr. Lewis, is there any way I'm not sure, am I able to direct my question to Mr. Lewis, or do I just
These are just
throw it
these
out?
are just comments
I just
based
comment.
on the
Okay.
public comment.
I drive by Disney, here and there, and the situation there is not good. Yes, it's similar to Jefferson, but for some reason Disney, it's chaotic. Is there any way perhaps that the PTA can get involved, not in finding a substitute crossing guard, of course, but to encourage parents to be respectful of each other, be respectful of the students? That would be one comment. Second, the money for a substitute crossing guard, that would come from the police? Is that a police department matter?
We staff the crossing guards out of our budget, yes.
Okay. And that budget is small, and the applications are probably very small.
It's more a matter of the application and the interest.
Okay.
Than the
So
funding, yes.
maybe we can find a way to, get Jocelyn Center perhaps to promote, or maybe the next time there is an opening, look at different ways to get the information out. Just a thought. Regarding the e-bikes, Mr. Donahue, I was thinking that we have to have the school district, I'm sure, Dr. Paramo, everybody would be behind getting the information out from an education point of view on the bikes, usage, but there has to be a law or laws to educate about. And that, to me, has to come first, and then we can get the kids to abide by that. But how does that happen? I mean, is the city able? We've only got some laws, and it seems to me that the definition of all these bikes is changing every day.
The good news with that is that we do have something agendized, so we're going to be able to have a further
Okay,
discussion
right,
about that this
next-
evening. Yeah. No,
All right,
this evening.
So that's
This
it.
evening, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for your concern.
Great, thank you. I just wanted to, just a general comment, just really appreciating our folks that are coming in to give public comment. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to representatives from the department for being here as well. I just want to acknowledge appreciation for all of us, including the commission, all of you, including the commission, because what we've got is we've got public comment happening on items that we actually have currently agendized, or we have active work going on, and we have future agenda items coming up. So just appreciating that synergy that folks are focusing and focusing on important issues to the community and are responsive to that. So just I want to thank everybody for that. We're going to go ahead and move on to item. We're going to actually get into our, thank you, Sherry, for giving me the hard copy. Thank you. We're going to move on to item F, which is the approval of minutes from November 20th, 2024. So I'm looking for a motion from Paul McKenna. I have a second from Roma Kakobian. All in favor of approving the minutes from November? Aye. Any opposition? Okay, passed unanimously. Thank you for that. So we're going to go ahead and move on to item G, which is items of business. G1 is presentation, discussion, and recommendations, if any, on the draft of the 2025 AB 481 report on military equipment prepared by the City Council. So is it Sergeant Turner you're coming up?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Welcome, Sergeant Turner.
Hello, good evening, Commission. Sergeant Steve Turner, the Public Information Officer and Professional Standards. Can we start the PowerPoint? This evening we'll be discussing Assembly Bill 481, or military equipment, what it is, how it pertains to the department and our community. The equipment listed in this annual report are essential tools that may be required from time to time in de-escalating intense situations to bring critical incidents to a safe resolution. This is our third report. This is the third report we've had since AB 481. This report you'll see is very similar to the past couple. We've added a couple pieces of equipment that we'll go over. While the inventory of the military equipment is varied, the mere possession of the equipment does not warrant its use for every incident. Each incident is unique. Critical incidents are unpredictable and can be very dynamic in nature. A variety of military equipment options can greatly assist our incident commanders, officers, specific units in bringing those incidents to a swift resolution in a safe manner. The use of military equipment is restricted for use only in certain instances and in some cases only by certain units or personnel. Again, just a little bit of background. Assembly Bill 481 was introduced as a way to increase transparency and accountability. It identified what constitutes, quote, military equipment. And then on September 30th of 2021, Governor Newsom signed into law AB 481, which went into effect January 1, 2022. Again, this is our third presentation since. Some of the requirements, what Assembly Bill 481 means to the department. The City Council had to approve our military equipment use policy, approve our current inventory. Also, as part of this, the military equipment report shall be published. As of today, it is published on our website. And law enforcement agencies shall hold at least one community engagement meeting annually to allow the public to ask questions, which we will be doing on February 21st. I'll be putting out, we will notify via notice of community meeting. We will put it out on our social media and we'll advise the community. The report is up on our website. You'll have a month to review it and encourage everyone who is interested to attend to have any questions to attend the meeting on, it would be February 19th. Similar to what we did last year, we'll slate it for about 5 p.m., an hour before the police commission, in City Hall chambers is what we're looking to do. Again, this report includes, as you'll see, a description of each type of military equipment, its purpose, authorized use, expected lifespan, the fiscal impact of some of the components, and it would also include a summary of any utilization of the equipment this past year. This presentation tonight, however, will be an overview. We'll cover a majority of what we have, but not everything that we have. We'll discuss some of our main pieces and examples of their use. The unmanned, remotely piloted ground vehicle, also known as our SWAT robots. These robots are controlled by remote control. The older robot to the left you'd probably recognize. We've had this for quite a few years, is equipped with audio and video relay capabilities. It can easily negotiate varied terrain, as you can see, kind of the tracks, the quad flipper track system. The newer robot, as you see on the right, this is one of our new pieces of equipment that we talked about, has live video feed only. However, it's a better camera. It's equipped with, utilizes infrared LEDs to increase video clarity and night vision lighting. Only our SWAT members are authorized to use these. One of the other differences too is the size. It's actually, the newer robots smaller, can be carried by an operator and thrown into a window as needed, so it's a little bit easier to use. These robots can be used remotely in various capacities. It can be used to clear buildings, open doors, deliver equipment or items, just to name a few. It can be used in circumstances such as barricaded suspects, not only to determine the suspect's exact location, but also open up lines of communication if need be, all while keeping officers at a safe distance. These robots were not deployed operationally in 2024. Our drones, unmanned remotely piloted aircraft. We've added a couple here too. As you can see, the one on the right is one of the newer ones. The drones are capable of transmitting footage in real time to the drone operator, ground officers, and incident commanders on scene or at remote locations. One of the highlights is they can be operational within minutes. We currently have 7 operators trained. That training includes FAA training, interdepartmental training, and a test. The larger drone to the left is an example. This is mainly for outdoor, higher altitude to use. The smaller drone, as you see on the right, is primarily designed for indoor use. That's why you have the enclosed props, enclosed blades there. The drones were deployed 31 times in 2024, mostly for aerial photography of traffic collisions, crime scenes, and searches, but it was also utilized in events such as Holiday in the Park and the Mayor's Tree Lighting Ceremony. As with anything, I'm going to go over summaries of some of this equipment we use. This first incident occurred on July 31st, and I will tell you there's 4 items in this report that were used in this one incident. So I'll refer back to it as I go through some of the other ones. So on July 31st, officers conducted a traffic stop for a vehicle. After contacting the driver, they realized the driver had an outstanding warrant for his arrest for weapons violations. They asked the driver to exit the vehicle. He did not comply, did not want to exit the vehicle. The officers continued to negotiate, try to get the individual out of the vehicle. It did not happen. One of the officers deployed their own personal pepper spray, caused discomfort, but still did not exit the vehicle. It was later determined that this individual, because of the danger of possible weapons, a valid warrant for his arrest, that those officers determined this to be a barricaded suspect inside of a vehicle and notified SWAT. So SWAT arrived on scene and ensured the perimeter was established, a proper perimeter was established. And number one, we'll go over a little bit later, our Bearcat, our armored vehicle, was used to block in that vehicle to prevent any kind of pursuit or anything like that, as well as provide cover for our officers. They continued to make announcements to the driver. We utilized some of our negotiating personnel, numerous calls, numerous everything. They try to use everything, try to talk to this individual out of the vehicle. SWAT ultimately breached the rear window of the vehicle and deployed what we call a noise flash diversionary device, commonly referred to as a flashbang. Again, we'll cover that a little bit, which caused the driver to move but not exit the vehicle. After some time, continued negotiations, SWAT officers deployed then the pepper ball, again, we'll cover it a little bit later in this presentation, pepper ball munitions into the interior area of that vehicle, trying to encourage this individual to exit the vehicle. One of the last things they did was utilizing that smaller drone. They flew that drone inside that vehicle, parked that drone on the dashboard of that vehicle, and were able to keep eyes on that individual, watch his movement as they continued to negotiate and try to get a response from him. Thankfully, the driver ultimately exited the vehicle and was taken into custody without further incident. He was treated for the chemical agent exposure at a local hospital before being booked in the Burbank PD jail. So again, a list of tools that we used. Ultimately, right at the end of the day, it was a safe resolution. He was taken into custody safely, and no officers, suspect, or bystanders were harmed in this incident. But I feel that was a good example of going through the various aspects that we have. Next item I'm going to talk about is our Bearcat, our armored personnel carrier. It was purchased in 2008 with funding from the State Homeland Security Grant Program and the Urban Area Security Initiative, and was approved by City Council. This vehicle, as you can see, enables department personnel to perform critical response and rescue operations in safe, secure, and highly mobile armored vehicle. This vehicle supports the department personnel in hazardous, high-risk, or critical incident, which would benefit from having a vehicle that provides a high level of ballistic protection. This vehicle was deployed 5 times in 2024. July 31st that we just discussed. And again, March 29th, the department's SWAT team conducted a search warrant related to firearms and narcotics investigation in the city of Los Angeles. A perimeter was established around the property, and the Bearcat was used as, again, cover for the officers. The suspect ultimately exited the residence and surrendered without incident. On May 20th of 2024, the department's SWAT team assisted the ATF Gun Violence Task Force with the service of a search warrant in the city of Palmdale. A perimeter was established around the property, and the Bearcat was used for cover for the officers. The suspect exited the residence and surrendered without incident. Again, this vehicle provides tremendous amount of cover. This vehicle can pull right up onto the front lawn. It's equipped with bright LED lights and a PA system. So once that perimeter is established by our SWAT officers, and you have this parked on your front lawn, you ask them nicely to come outside, and generally they come out. Oops. Our mobile command post, command and control vehicle. It's a completely self-contained command post designed to provide the incident commander with mobile base of operations. This command post contains the specialized command, control, and communications equipment to assist with the incident. It's essentially a dispatch center on wheels. This command post also serves as backup communication center in the event our communication center fails. Or in recent history, we've had some remodeling, technical issues, or whatever it is at our 911 dispatch communication center. They could park this even at the station and utilize it as an operating communication center. It can be prolonged. It can be deployed at prolonged investigations at crime scenes or during natural disasters, like we talked about. We had the 2017 Latuna fire. Unfortunately, these past few weeks, we know how those kind of prolonged investigations, this would be an item that would be utilized in something like that. The command post is also on display for events such as National Night Out, Fire Service Day, or similar events. The mobile command post was not deployed operationally in 2024. Noise flash device, commonly referred to as the flashbang. The noise flash device, or NFD, is a device that creates a bright flash and a loud sound to temporarily divert the attention of subjects in the immediate area. NFDs are used to distract and temporarily incapacitate dangerous suspects by overwhelming their senses of vision and hearing. The distraction allows officers to seize a moment of opportunity to take control of a high-risk situation. The device is only used by our SWAT team. Our noise flash devices were discharged on 2 occasions in 2024. July 31st, the incident, the individual barricaded in the car, and on October 10th, the department SWAT team assisted the Pasadena Police Department with the service of a search warrant related to an armed robbery investigation in the city of Arcadia. A perimeter was established around the property, and the Bearcat, again, was used to cover for the officers. After making numerous announcements, officers did not observe any movement inside the residence, and no one came to the front door. 2 noise flash diversionary devices were deployed to the exterior portion of the residence, and the occupants quickly responded to the front door, exited, and were detained by the officers. The suspect was taken into custody without incident. So like I said, sometimes the Bearcat works as encouragement for people to come out. Sometimes you have to encourage them a little bit more with something like the noise flash diversionary device. Again, all these items creating time and distance, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Next up is our array of chemical agent delivery devices, both in CS and OC. The difference between CS and OC are the chemical makeup. CS is a synthetic compound, while OC, also known as pepper spray, is made up of natural compounds. Individuals who may be under the influence of an unknown substance may be resistive to one or the other. That's why we have both. Deployments of CS or OC are considered equal levels of force. The decision to deploy either agent alone or in combination is situation driven, made by the incident commander and based on the specific circumstances of the incident. If someone is exposed to either one of these, individuals are treated by flushing out the infected area with water by paramedics on scene, and then transported to a local hospital for further treatment if needed. So again, flushing out the eyes with water is the common treatment for this. Chemical agent devices were not discharged operationally in 2024. The MK9 Stream Aerosol. This is an OC chemical agent device. This is very similar to the OC that the officers carry on them, except it's about a fire extinguisher size. These are kept by our SWAT team as well as in our K9 vehicles. It's an easy-to-use trigger handle, will deliver short bursts of OC in an effective range of 18 to 20 feet. This OC aerosol product utilizes a stream or a wand as seen there. Delivery method providing a very target-specific, strong, concentrated stream at a greater distance. It was utilized once in 2024. On January 18th at approximately 9 p.m., officers got a call and responded to a local auto body shop of a burglary in progress. Information was obtained. The owner of the place could see something going on in his shop from his home, his remote location, and his cameras. Officers arrived on scene and upon their arrival confirmed and observed a suspect inside the business. They made announcements. He fled deeper into the location. A perimeter was set up and a canine officer was requested to respond. Shortly after the canine officer responded, concerned that this individual may now at an auto body shop may arm himself with any kind of weapon, whether it be hammers, tools, or whatever, what kind of nature is inside that shop. A decision was made to have the canine search the premises. They made several announcements. The canine alerted to the suspect's scent. However, due to the suspect's location up in it was in an upper crawl space of this auto body shop, the canine was unable to contact the suspect. So, due to the location, they used the OC aerosol spray, was able to deliver that agent into the upper crawl space. Shortly thereafter, causing the suspect to cough, discomfort, started listening to commands, ordered the suspect down, was taken into custody without incident. It's one of our kinetic energy weapons. This is the pepper ball launcher. As you can see, very similar to a paintball launcher. This system uses high pressure air to deliver chemical agent powder projectiles. It has an effective deployment range of 5 to 60 feet. The pepper ball launcher was discharged once operationally during 2024, and that was again the July 31st incident of the individual in his car. These are our 40 millimeter launchers. This was added, the dual shot, the Defense Technology 40 millimeter single shot launcher, and the Sage Control Ordnance Deuce 40 millimeter dual shot launcher. That's the new one we've had added this year. Are both less lethal systems, not firearms, that use smokeless powder to deliver 40 millimeter projectiles from a safe distance. Kinetic energy projectiles, when used properly, are less likely to result in death or serious physical injury and can be used to de-escalate a potentially deadly situation. I shared with the commission last year that we had an individual in my own personal experience who was armed with a knife, and we were able to utilize one of these, and this would have been in 2023, to safely resolve that situation. The 40 millimeter launchers were not discharged operationally in 2024. The Burbank Police Department currently possesses 11 different items that fall under the military equipment classification as defined by Assembly Bill 481. There are multiple layers of oversight in the use of this equipment. This annual military equipment report reaffirms the Burbank Police Department's commitment to providing transparency and information to our community and elected officials, in addition to ensuring compliance with the law. The equipment outlined in this report allow Burbank officers to better protect our community and bring critical incidents to a safe resolution. This equipment provides time and distance, which are essential in resolving critical incidents safely. With that, this concludes my report, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Sergeant Turner, thank you. Just real quickly, I want to start with one quick question. For the report is listed under the departmental policies page on the, if you click on professional accountability, on the Burbank Police Department website. I just wanted to lift up, there's two different items there, and I can see that folks might get caught up. There's a link to the policy 709, which is
Correct.
the Burbank Police Department's military equipment policy, and you can click there, it'll take you to the policy. Right below that is the 2024 report, but if you click on the policy number, there's a link in the policy that actually takes you to the 2022 report. Is it possible to I don't know if you can update the policies to update the link in the policy itself to take you to the report? Because right now, within the policy, takes you to 2022, not 2024, and I realize that folks might get caught up with that.
Well, the policy remains the same. The policy is our policy.
Right.
The report which was uploaded today should be the 2024 report.
Right. 2024 is loaded, but in the policy, it says to click on the current
Oh,
report.
so fix that
and it takes you to-
hyperlink.
Yeah,
You
it
got
takes,
it.
if there's
Will
a way
do.
to fix that hyperlink would be great.
Will do.
Okay, thank you for that. I'd like to open it up for questions that folks have. Actually, before we do that, I want to name, this is a presentation on the report. We're going to get an opportunity to hear this report again at the February meeting at 5 p.m., so you can ask questions then as well. So this is really on the report, on anything related to the presentation. If you have any outstanding questions related to the report itself, now would be a great time to ask. Ann, did you have a question?
I did, and now I'm thinking maybe I don't. I
Okay.
should wait, but I'll ask. One small question. There was comments about only the SWAT team can be trained to use it, or only the SWAT team is trained. Examples: the Bearcat and the robot. Why is that? I mean, cost of training, or they're likely the only ones to use them.
It varies depending on the piece of equipment. Some of it has some pretty intricate training, required training. A lot of our SWAT personnel train twice a month, and they have the opportunity to train and familiarize themselves with whatever equipment they're required to carry. And so they're more tactically efficient and better equipped to handle that stuff.
Would SWAT teams normally have more time in their day for training than, say, your police?
Well, I could tell you the benefit about the city of Burbank and similar cities like us, our SWAT members are a collateral assignment. So our SWAT members are your traffic officers, are your detectives, are your patrol officers, and throughout the department. They come together twice a month to train as a team, and then they're subject to on-call. So in any given event, for example, you have an event take place in the city at noon on a Tuesday, you're going to get, you'll have SWAT members there they may be working their detective assignment, but they'll respond as a SWAT member. You'll have a patrol officer who may be assigned to beat that particular day, but they'll assume the role as a SWAT member.
Got it.
So again, with a lot of this, and a lot of this equipment is not to be deployed. You wouldn't be deployed regularly. It would be very special circumstances. Again, a special weapons and tactics team. That's why they're trained on that kind of stuff.
Okay, thank you.
You
That
got it.
helps. I'll save my other one.
Not a problem. Thank you. Any other questions or comments about the report? Paul, go ahead.
I just to say how much I appreciate you continuing to reinforce that these are all defensive and to de-escalate.
Yes.
The misinterpretation, and I had a long discussion with one of our current council members about this and explaining that these are all so that everybody, including the defender, go home safely.
Yes.
Thank you for reinforcing that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Romick, do you have any comments?
Sergeant Turner, thank you so much for that presentation. Question in regards to process is how do you determine which weapon should be used, and what does that process look like for when you're making that determination?
All the pieces of equipment that we have very unique needs and roles in it. So it's hard to answer that in the sense that every situation is dynamic, right? Ideally, you want to go into every situation and talk yourself out of it, right? But we have this. That's why I think the example on July 31st of the individual in their car, that was kind of a good barometer of, we tried to, scare him out with the noise flash diversionary device to kind of just rattle him. He kind of just moved in the car. All right, what's our next? We're going to, use the pepper balls, So, and every case is very unique. So it's a combination. The incident commander on scene, the sergeant on scene is going to see what capabilities will help resolve this safely, the most safe.
Any other comments? Mike?
I see in your report that our Bearcat is 17 years old.
Yes.
What's its lifespan, and when do you think it might be replaced?
In the report, it breaks down individually exactly how old is it. It's the end of its life cycle. They're in the process, the city's in the process of looking into grant funding and getting approval from city council to probably replace that piece of equipment.
Thank you for the answer, and thank you for your presentation.
You got it, sir.
And Mike?
Great, thank you for your presentation this evening. I have not reviewed the 2024 report completely. Is there a listing on how much money is involved in the equipment?
Yes, so in the report, it's like I said, again, it's the exact same kind of report as last year with the addition of some of those new items we talked about. It gives a breakdown of cost. Certain items have an annual cost, such as our mobile command post, which is through city yards, it has for maintenance. And then certain items have one-time cost and expiration dates, and that is all included in detail in the report.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions? Paul?
Just to be noted, the Bearcat and that type of a vehicle, that originated as a police vehicle and was adopted by the military. So it's called military equipment, but it was originally adopted, so people know it was adopted for this purpose,
Yeah.
to protect officers and assailants.
Yes.
Thank you, Paul. So I just wanted to wrap up. I wanted to thank you for the presentation.
Yes,
It's
sir.
it's as always professionally done and thorough. I also want to lift up that it's normalized. I remember when we first got this presentation 3 years ago, and folks may remember that there was a lot of controversy about why are we spending the time doing this report? Should we be doing this report? I just appreciate that it's standardized. We're moving it forward. It's just part of doing business. I'm not seeing anything that's controversial in the report and kind of anticipate that there probably won't be any issues with this year. So I want to thank you. Other comments, Mike?
Yeah, real quick, I'm just curious, when the presentation is made, is there really any necessity to have it in the other building instead of having it in?
Oh, we're having it here this year.
We're having it here, yeah.
Perfect, perfect.
Yeah, we're gonna do it here this year, just at 5 PM, right before the next commission meeting. What we did last year, we had it at 5 PM.
Yep.
I give you this same fantastic presentation in all its glory, and we offer the community a chance and yourselves a chance to ask questions. Once we're completed, we'll take a break, and then we go into the police commission meeting.
Yeah, we are not drawing a crowd that would necessitate a larger space yet. Yet.
That's what Chairman Combs was talking about. The first year, we expected that.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen, so we were able to just
Yeah.
size it down.
Yep. Okay, with that, thank you,
You got it.
Sergeant Turner. We appreciate that. We're going to go ahead and move on to item G2, which is a presentation, discussion, and possible recommendations, if applicable, on the recent DUI enforcement activities. Good evening.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Lieutenant Barkus. If I can get the slideshow, please. There we go. There you go. I'm going to be giving a presentation on DUI enforcement, strategies, and statistics. And bear with me as we go through this. Some of the goals we're going to discuss are DUI enforcement and the strategies we use, overview of DUI statistics, and how we are moving forward as an organization. If you look back, this goes back to 2020, and it goes up to last year for some of our DUI collisions and our DUI arrests. Most recently, as of last year, we had 109 DUI collisions. Thank you. DUI collisions, not used to the public speaking.
It's for our audience
And,
at home.
I believe it was approximately 282 DUI arrests. As you can see, for the most part, there was a little bit of a difference going through during COVID. Some of the numbers changed, but for the most part, over the past few years, they've relatively kind of remained steady. Some of our DUI fatalities, the numbers on here are from 2022. Obviously, with nationwide, it takes a lot of time to gather all the information, so they're usually a couple of years behind. Nationwide, there was 13,000, I believe, 524 of the DUI fatalities. In the state of California, it was 436, and within LA County, it was 152. And luckily here in the city of Burbank for the year of 2022, and for this year, it's been at 0. Some of our strategies that we use for DUI enforcement are high visibility saturation patrols, publicized sobriety checkpoints, knowledge of local drinking establishment, one of our educational campaigns of knowing your limit. We do school-based instructional programs, and we do collaborate with other law enforcement organizations. And I'll just elaborate on some of those. The high visibility saturation patrols are generally funded by some of our OTS grants that we have that are specifically for DUI enforcement. The publicized sobriety checkpoints, we recently had one out on Olive, kind of between Maple and Pass. What we do is we put out a press release notifying the public, obviously, that we're going to be out there. Our main goal is to educate people as opposed to making a bunch of, we hope to not see a bunch of DUI people driving under the influence coming through. The knowledge of local drinking establishments is kind of on the officer level. I know when I was in patrol as an officer, you knew your area, you knew which area, which places serve or people tend to go to, on nights. And those are some of the things that people keep their eye on. The Know Your Limit educational campaign involves officers going out on a grant and making contact with some of these local establishments in a very non-confrontational, friendly, educational purpose. And that's, I think you heard last year they talked about some of those programs where they'll go in and talk to some of the patrons who may have a couple cocktails, talk to them about how they feel, and they may say like, yeah, I'm ready to jump behind the wheel, I'm okay. Well, why don't you just try this? No catch, and they blow and they realize that maybe they aren't capable of driving, which, like I said, with the education, educating the public is the main goal, and sometimes people actually get to enjoy it, interacting with us, knowing they're not going to go to jail. School-based instructional programs, we've had several of these over the years. Times have changed with the amount of school resource officers we have, but we still try to get our motor officers to the schools, talk about DUIs, obviously, but mostly traffic, just traffic safety with our youth. There has been a program that we've done in the past, which is called Every 15 Minutes. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, where they'll do basically a mock traffic collision and kind of go through the process, and the students can watch. And they have students as actors, and the officers get involved. And then, obviously, collaborating with the other law enforcement agencies. We'll have other agencies come in and work either saturation patrols with us on grant money, or they'll assist with us in doing our checkpoints. This recent checkpoint, I believe it was San Gabriel? Monterey Park PD came out, and they sent a couple officers out to help with us. And that's part of the conditions of the grants that we receive from the OTS, is collaborating with other agencies, being able to go out and help them. These are some of the signs of an impaired driver. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I think we all know the stuff that you see when you're driving home at 2 o'clock in the morning on the freeway and you see the car swerving. Not necessarily by itself always an indicator that somebody's under the influence, but there's many indicators that we have as law enforcement officers that lead us to that conclusion, or help officers, or at least have officers have a reason to stop somebody to investigate further. The DUI stats, these are from just the holiday season from late November to the beginning of this year. We had 26 DUI arrests, 21 of those were for DUI alcohol, 5 of them were for a combination of alcohol and drugs, and 9 DUI arrests involving traffic collisions. This is the OTS grant that I was speaking about earlier that funds a lot of the programs that we do. We're now, thanks to Sergeant Stone here, up to $208,000 for this last one, which includes 2 drug recognition experts training for that, and 3 checkpoints, which we just did one last month, and funding to purchase different equipment that we use. A lot of our traffic officers now, we have automated sight writers that help out, and printers for that, and some of the equipment we get from these grants, so it does not cost anything to the city. These are just some of the effects of what a DUI can cost people, and these are some of the brochures and information packets that we'll hand out to people too, especially when we do some of these interactive educational contacts out in public, for people just to know. I mean, it's not just getting a ticket and you're out. There's a lot that goes into it. People don't realize suspension of your license, insurance rates going up, suspension if you're lucky, let alone getting revoked, possibly having a interlock device installed in your vehicle that you have to blow into. There's a lot of stuff that people obviously don't think about, and talking to them kind of makes them realize the cost that it could have, potentially up to $45,000. I have this video. I can play it if you guys want. It is the same one that you guys saw last year. There was another video that I was going to play, but it was probably not appropriate. So this one was on the news.
New video
so
this morning of a violent crash in Glendale that left one person dead, 2 others injured. It happened last night near the corner of Elm Avenue and Glen Oaks Boulevard. Surveillance video captures the moment that a car crosses over the center median and then slams into a silver sedan, killing the passenger inside. It's unclear what caused the initial car to veer into the opposing lanes of traffic. Now, the status of the 2 people injured also unknown.
So terrible incident. Obviously, that happened right on the border of us with Glendale. We work very well with Glendale. We have a lot of our residents that live in Burbank and in Glendale travel on Glen Oaks, and it just kind of makes it sink close to home because we all drive that, and how quickly someone can be sitting as a passenger in a vehicle and the next somebody comes over because of their lack of judgment and takes somebody's life. Moving forward, continue advanced officer DUI training. Community engagement and education. In the advanced officer DUI training, all of our officers are prepared to go out and be able to arrest someone for DUI, go through the standard field sobriety tests. We do have specialized training because a lot of times now too, you'll not only have individuals under the influence of alcohol, but you can involve stimulants, depressants, different types of prescription drugs, and all those play into the totality of it and different symptoms. And a lot of times we have to have expert training to be able to testify in court as an expert, saying that these are the symptoms that we saw and this is why we went ahead and made this arrest. And that training is long and time consuming too for the officers and for the department. So it helps when we do have these OTS grants that pay for a lot of that. Our goal moving forward, increase publicity for the DUI enforcement and checkpoints. Obviously, as time goes on and staff gets short, we still want to put these on. It's very important to us. But it's also, like I said, it isn't about getting out there and making arrests. It's letting the public know that we are out there watching, but we want you to be safe. And we want to encourage you to find alternate routes for getting home. Because especially now, when I was younger, we didn't have Uber, and the cabs, driving through Burbank weren't always all around, and they were usually about 2 in the morning all parked at the Coral Cafe. So now with, ride assist, it makes it a lot easier to be able to get a ride home. DUI saturation patrols, that's another big part of the grant. Having officers come in specifically, they're not answering calls for service, they're not doing anything else other than just doing DUI enforcement. Grant funding and obviously helps out with a lot of our technology that I talked about too, to help us purchase equipment and to conduct some of the operations that we do. Collaboration, working with the other agencies, it gives us an opportunity too just to talk to people too and see what their agencies are doing. We always are working with Glendale, Pasadena, some of the local agencies. It's nice when we get some agencies that come out from the Inland Empire and come out and we talk to them about how they do things, talking to people from close by agencies, like Monterey Park, they had a couple officers out here, and they talked to us about how they do their operations, and we talked to them, and we both kind of take something away from each other. That's it. Do you guys have any questions?
Lieutenant Barkas, thank you. Let's open up for questions. Roman, go ahead.
Well, Lieutenant Barkas, thank you so much for that presentation.
Yes, sir.
Do you guys have any cases, as far as teen drivers, any incidents around DUIs and teen drivers at all, or any concerns around that?
Do we have any, I'm sorry,
any concerns around teen drivers or teen drivers driving under the influence?
Oh, absolutely, and that's part of the programs we do when we go out and speak to the kids in high schools and stuff, because that's obviously where we see it, where kids are starting to experiment with alcohol. Wow. It usually comes in the high school age, and it's nice to get in there ahead of time and talk to them to let them know that we are out there, and if you're under 21, it's not 0.08, it's 0.0. So there is no wiggle room, and if you're under 18, mom and dad are coming too. And usually that's even more of a deterrent than the police getting involved, is when you have mom and dad come pick you up. So we are always educating the kids about that too. And that is a big issue though, because we want to stop it when it's early.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mike, I know that you attend the DUI checkpoints every once in a while. I was wondering if you wanted to reflect on that a little bit.
Well, I know in the past, at the DEI checkpoints, you always didn't have enough people, that you were slightly understaffed some evenings.
I can't speak for the past because this last one was the first one I was at, but yes, we are. I mean, everyone's facing staffing shortages, especially in traffic. We're probably at half of what we should be.
Wow.
We're very fortunate though to have other people come out, and we do collaborate with other agencies, which does help. And they're required on their grants to work with us, and we're required on our grants to work with others. So it helps when we have other agencies come in. And we do have a lot of not a lot, but we have some civilian staff that comes out that helps us with a lot of the counting and the paperwork processing and stuff. That sort of stuff. So we're able to do it, and we're able to do it safely. That's our main goal, is to be effective and safe. And we are able to make that happen, but it's probably not the numbers compared to when I first started, where we'd have a lot more officers, and we're able to take up a little bit more of an area.
Also, there seemed to be a trend that I can remember some of the early checkpoints that I attended. Maybe 1,000 cars were checked that evening.
Mm-hmm.
And now it seems to be in the 600-700 range. Just your personal observations, do you think there's, like, basically in Burbank, there's less traffic out at night?
It's really, it's hit and miss. It has several factors that go into that. The location that we decide to go at, depending on how many lanes of traffic we can go through and how busy traffic is going through. Our goal isn't to stop everybody up. We're trying to get a certain amount of cars to go through, and then once we get the traffic flowing, we'll have some cars come in for an actual secondary. So there are times that we might only have 600 or 700 cars, and there's times that we'll have over 1,000, and it depends too on the time of year. This last DUI checkpoint, I believe we had over 1,000 cars go through. It was also around the holidays. There was a lot more holiday parties. So there's more traffic out on the roads.
And one last question. The determination that the vehicle, let's just say, is driving in a different type of manner.
Okay.
So it attracts your attention. How do you determine that the person is under the influence of alcohol or of a drug? Since they can't blow a sobriety test.
Yeah, but like with police work, there's so many variables that go into it. The driving, going up and just talking with people and smelling them. Smelling people's breath, that's usually the first indicator. Smelling inside the car. You can smell, there's a definite distinction between alcohol in somebody's breath and someone that has just smoking marijuana. I can't sniff their nose to see if there's cocaine, but there's certain indicators too, a little white powder. There's different things that officers pick up on, obviously, that lead to determining if it's alcohol or drug related.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your presentation.
Yes, sir.
Layla, go ahead.
Yes, thank you for your presentation. And I hope I know the answer to this question is going to be no, but I'm just wondering, or I guess I hope the answer is yes. Are all the establishments in Burbank that do serve alcohol, are they generally pretty cooperative, or have we had any any places where there's kind of a consistent folks are getting overserved or things like that, or is that not so much an issue in Burbank?
I would say over the years, especially more recently, we not only do we go out and speak with the restaurant owners, but our used to be our vice narcotics special investigations. I stand corrected. They'll go out and work with the ABC alcohol beverage control, and we'll do different types of buys at liquor stores, any types of places that sell it, and we'll go into establishments that sell on the premises. Most of these businesses are very cooperative because that license is their bread and butter. If they lose their liquor license, that's a significant financial hit to them, and that alone keeps people checking IDs. They do occasionally make mistakes, and sometimes it's very fast-paced, and I don't think it's even intentional, but mistakes happen. We're only human. But for the most part, I would say majority of the businesses here, I couldn't even think of one offhand that wouldn't cooperate with us. Like I said, that liquor license holds a lot of weight.
Thank you. Other comments or questions? Mike, go ahead.
Just from my own personal experience, I live in a corner house with a stop sign.
Mm-hmm.
It's not uncommon for me Sunday morning to find a 6-pack and of empties on the parkway. Is patrol, I mean, looking for these people who are just parked and drinking in the residential neighborhoods?
Well, I mean, of course, if an officer's driving by and he happens to see somebody sitting in a vehicle outside of a park with a six-pack outside their window, they're probably going to draw their attention to talk to them. Anytime we see somebody, parked in a vehicle, it draws our attention, first of all, for, check on their safety, make sure they're okay. A lot of times we'll have a medical emergency that people need to be treated for. But also, sometimes there's people up to no good at 2 in the morning outside of a park. They're not playing on the swings. So there is a lot that goes into it. Those types of situations, honestly, the citizens are our best informants, if you will. The person who's, getting up to use the restroom in the late evening hours and they see, light coming from inside a car, call the police. People always feel guilty to call us. They always say, oh, I felt so bad, but a lot of times it's those phone calls that get us out there and investigating. So, hope that answered your question.
Thank you very much.
Paul, go ahead.
I don't even know how to phrase this. As the advent of Waze and things like that, do they steer people away, or do they kind of give a heads up?
Ways you can put in like police activity somewhere. I know that people, between that and social media, it gets out there. But we actually encourage. I mean, not encourage it, but it doesn't bother us. People are out there. Hey, there's a checkpoint. People they're going to do 2 things. They're either going to get a ride, or they're not going to drink. They're not going to wing it. So more of that stuff going out is just more of that publicized information for us, as far as I'm concerned.
So you see it as a deterrent?
I do. I mean, I do see how the Waze thing sometimes is more of a, it doesn't say DUI checkpoint. It would just say police activity. So hopefully, it's not someone driving under the influence that tries to avoid that. But, there's only so much we can do with those.
So it sounds like a large part of it is simply public awareness. It's not like you're not trying to create a gotcha moment.
No, we're not trying to have that aha moment. It's if the public knows that we're going to do these types of operations, if they know that we're putting cars out there on the weekends that are specifically targeting DUI drivers, and we're looking for those types of impairments, hopefully that's enough for someone to say, I'm going to cut it off at this one.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to acknowledge the data in all of this and in all the presentations that we received, but the importance of the data. I do get a chance to interact with folks in the community throughout the week, throughout the month, and one of the things that's happening, I hear people refer to Burbank as either Mayberry or how it used to be Mayberry, and I know that the numbers of the population, at least in recent years, hasn't changed that much. It's been right around 105,000 or so, and I know our police force has been around 160, and we'll get into the 2035 report in another agenda item. But one of the things that I just appreciate about the data is that a lot of the comments that I get back from the community are the police department's not doing enough. The police department's not taking action like they used to. The data says another picture, and it's helpful to have access to that data. I just want to express my appreciation for it, because when people do make comments about they don't think the police department's doing enough, we have a place that we can turn to, just like the DUI data, to demonstrate the work that is happening, the good work that's happening. So I just wanted, as a geek for a minute, I wanted to lift up the data a little bit and just let you know I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you see some of the numbers and people say, oh, well, 0 for Burbank. I take that as a compliment that we do have 0, because we're, hopefully we are educating those people not to be drinking and driving in Burbank, or to take those alternate rides home. So hopefully we're being effective.
Fantastic. Any other comments before we close out this item? All right. Well, thank you, Lieutenant Barkis. Thank you for that. And Sergeant Stone, I want to acknowledge you as well, because you were involved in some of the grant work involved in this. So thank you both for your presentation.
Thank you.
We're going to go ahead and move on to item number G3, which is the report out on the preliminary report on electric scooters and e-bike regulations. This will probably be a very boring, dry presentation, would be my guess. Let's go ahead.
Yes.
Well, welcome.
Yes. Good evening, Commissioner.
Yes.
And the board. Adam Cornelius, Deputy Chief.
Yes.
I'm here to give you the report out on the preliminary report on electric scooters and e-bike regulations, which is a little bit clunky, but this is going to be a full presentation. This is a report out on where we stand with our preliminary report to council and what we're going to do for you. So you'll recall September 2024, City Council requested a first step report on electric bikes and scooters and associated regulations. You'll also remember that topic from Sergeant Stone's presentation in July of 2023 to the Commission. So it's a complicated topic. There are multiple classes of e-bikes, challenges on how you identify them at a glance based on what they do. There's multiple classes of bikeways. There's different rules for e-bikes and e-scooters. And Commissioner McKenna hit it on the head. Legislation is challenged with keeping up with developments in technology, particularly in this field, because it touches so many different places. So Lieutenant Barkus has taken over for Lieutenant Fromer in traffic, but Lieutenant Fromer has moved on to the Detective Bureau, but he has a vested interest in this topic, and he's going to be doing the first step report for council. So he'll also be coming to give you that presentation with the report. His preparation on that includes reviews of existing state laws and some sample legislation from some other municipal jurisdictions, as well as collision data from Burbank and some updates on what the new laws that have come to pass this year and how that impacts things. There is legislation in place in other jurisdictions, other municipalities, other counties that does address some of the e-bike and e-scooter things specifically. For example, there's some that are restricting the use of Class 2 or higher e-bikes to age 16 or older. There are some that are requiring helmets for anybody regardless of age if they're using a Class 2 or higher e-bike, so those are some things that we can consider. Part of our collision data, collisions involving bicycles, scooters, e-bikes in 2024 were markedly up. Injuries associated with those collisions, because it's really hard to have a non-injury collision in those categories, is also markedly up. We're going to have some of that data ready to go because we're right at the end of the year. We're only 2 weeks into this year, so all the data isn't done yet. The report is close. It's almost completed for the first step report to council. There's going to be a presentation to match at elections, holidays, fires, mutual aid requests, and position transfers. So we aren't quite there yet, but we're going to be there. Our flight plan is to deliver that staff report to City Council on February 25th. We're waiting to see if that's going to match with their agenda to get that staff report and presentation to them. We would like to present it to the Police Commission on February 19th so that you can see it the week before, get a full preview of the presentation, full preview of the staff report. We can get input, you can ask some questions, make some suggestions, and then we can go back to the lab, refine things, and have a better product to present to City Council with some insight outside of our own organization. And I promise you, I will bring back Lieutenant Fromer to make that presentation for you, because I know he will be missed. So if there's any questions on that topic, that's a brief report out on the preliminary report that is coming for council.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Out of curiosity, 2 comments. One, this sounds like a silly question. I don't know what the answer is. Is it safe to say that a Class 2 or higher, you have to have a Class 2 or higher e-bike in order to be able to pull a wheelie on it? Does a lower class have the ability to have that kind of power?
I don't know. I would say I have seen my 8-year-old do a wheelie on his pedal bike.
Okay.
So
right.
I think, depending on how you manipulate it and how you use it,
I guess you could.
You probably can make it happen.
Yeah.
It's probably easier to do it on a higher powered one.
The reason I ask is I know Mr. Donahue earlier was making a comment about seeing e-bikes fly around. I know Paul made that comment as well, and I've experienced it as well, where we've got roving gangs of children, small children, riding e-bikes, pulling wheelies all over Burbank. So I've noticed that. The other question I had is, will there be any information in the report about the use of e-bikes on the on the hiking trails?
We'll make sure that's addressed.
Okay, I appreciate that. Other questions, comments that folks have about the preliminary report or the preparation of the preliminary report? Mike, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mike, I'm sorry.
Wonder if you include in a report the use of e-bikes on the Chandler Bikeway.
Okay.
Paul?
I don't even know if this was an e-bike, but I was walking around the corner to Glen Oaks and was almost hit by somebody who didn't even come to my waist. It was a small child, and to their credit, they had all the safety equipment on, but it was buzzing by on the sidewalk. And all I thought was, well, one step faster, and he would have hit me, but someone's going to get hurt.
And I think that's why some of those municipalities have moved to a 16 or older hard deck for people using a Class 2 or higher, because beyond that, the frontal lobe hasn't developed enough to manage that horsepower.
If you give the frontal lobe more credit than it deserves.
Maybe. I was probably 25.
Yes.
Appreciate that. Other comments or questions on the report? All right. Deputy Chief Cordials, first off, congratulations again
Thank you.
on the appointment to Deputy Chief position, and just really appreciate your presentation on this. We are looking forward to the full report. Actually, I do have one more quick comment. I'm wondering, will the report, or could the report, include anecdotal information from the community on the impact that the community has experienced related to that? So I know Mr. Donahue has made comments, Paul's just provided another comment today. I'm wondering if that would be useful for how the residents of Burbank are experiencing e-bikes.
So in a staff report, we don't typically include anecdotal information.
Okay.
The forum, though, the great venue for that is on the 25th when it goes to council, or on the 19th when it comes in front of you here, is for folks to come in or call in and make public comment.
Public comment.
And I would encourage that for the city council
Great.
too, because a staff report is more of a legal document, and including anecdotal stories is probably not the right venue for it.
Makes
But
sense.
public comment would be the place to do that.
Makes sense. And hopefully the public comment will be focused so that way our city council and staff are not up until midnight
Yes.
taking that report.
They would appreciate that too.
Perfect. Thank you. Any other comments or questions related to the report? All right, thank you for the presentation this evening.
You're welcome. You get me for the next one.
Oh, we do? Okay, so the next one that we're going to be up on is item G4. This is the presentation and discussion on the city's 2035 general plan and how it relates to the Burbank Police Department. Deputy Chief Cordials, welcome back.
Thank you. If I could get the PowerPoint up, please. Okay, so we know who I am. And I'm here to talk to you tonight about the 2035 general plan and how it impacts the police department and our operations. Quick overview: it was adopted in February 2013 by City Council, and it's basically a broad map for the city's physical, economic, and environmental goals, a strategic document. It addresses a range of issues that it breaks down into elements. These are labeled out as air quality and climate change, land use, mobility, noise, open space and conservation, and safety. And there are periodic reviews of it and revisions to ensure it remains relevant to the community and that modifications are made to it moving forward, because it's a roadmap for 22 years and things are going to change. So how does this relate to BPD? It's an overall a general direction to city departments. Each of those elements that we listed out earlier, underneath them they have a series of long-term goals. Each of those goals has a series of policy objectives. And so that is what we use as the map for our strategic plans. Certain elements in this relate more to us than others, particularly mobility, noise, and safety. So I'm going to break it down. I'm going to touch on those, touch on the goals and the policy objectives that impact us directly and how we operate with them. If you've seen our 2035 plan on the city's website, you're going to recognize these graphics because I stole them. So our first goal that we have.
Legally stole them.
Yes.
Borrowed.
Yes, borrowed, appropriated. So under mobility, goals 5, 7, and 9 really touch on us and our operations. Number 5, bicycle and pedestrian mobility, a very hot topic in the community. This is something we touch on with education, outreach, enforcement, doing things like in the community like bicycle helmet giveaways with the Kiwanis. We work with the Traffic Division of Public Works on traffic engineering issues to try and mitigate some of the behaviors instead of just enforcement. But we also do directed enforcement operations and things like pedestrian right-of-way enforcement, working things on the Chandler bike path to ensure some of those issues are addressed. Number 7, parking. The first policy objective under that, 7.1, is effectively managing citywide parking. You also notice there's some dots there. These are policy documents that can get a little wordy, so I kind of compressed to just keep it relevant. So parking enforcement, that is our area. In the recent years, we brought on Laz Parking, a private vendor. The fundamental reasoning behind that was their hiring process is quicker. Kind of like we discussed with the crossing guards, they have a pool of staff so that if there are sick calls, people move on to other jobs, they have an immediate pool of people they can pull in to plug in and replace that staff. Whereas in the civil service hiring process, we don't have that. They also were very good at leveraging technology and using license plate reading cameras and tracking technology to help them enforce more efficiently. We've also developed a community service officer position. We're in the process of hiring our first couple of those. They're also going to be there to assist with parking impounding vehicles, doing some basic traffic collision investigation, and supporting roles there. So if we look to number 9, safety, accessibility, and equity, and again, first policy objective there is to ensure the safe interaction of all modes of travel using the streets. So traffic. Probably the number one concern, the number one thing that impacts everybody in this city is traffic. Makes Lieutenant Barkus and Lieutenant Fromer very popular. So patrolling traffic, we have a high focus on visibility and enforcement. Our traffic bureau is very strategic in how they do things. They take the resources they have. There's never going to be enough traffic officers to address everything in the city. They examine collision data. So they're looking at what we call our high accident intersections. They're looking at what the PCF, the primary collision factor in those collisions, and they're going out and doing directed enforcements in those areas for those vehicle code violations that are causing those collisions. They also, as Lieutenant Barkus mentioned, they're leveraging Office of Traffic Safety grants for equipment, for training, for vehicles, and for operations. And just this week, we signed on to a street racing task force with LAPD. We finished up the MOA, the Memorandum of Agreement with them, which is going to allow our officers to join with LA to go, and some surrounding cities, to go work enforcement operations for street racing in the city of LA, in the surrounding cities, and then when we have a need, to bring all those resources here to address it here. So that's a big deal for us. That's been about a year in the making. And we just put the ink to the MOA this week. Our officers have gone to training from traffic on some of the specialty enforcement parts of this. So we're looking forward to getting up and running with that. One of the next elements was noise. This touches on us lightly. A couple of the goals and policy objectives are vehicle traffic noise. Specifically for us is enforcing the BMC about heavy trucks driving in residential neighborhoods as part of the 2035 plan. We worked with Public Works on identifying the streets, they got signage up, and then there's a BMC in place to prohibit heavy trucks. The number one traffic noise issue people are probably going to talk about is going to be, hey, modified exhaust, loud music. That's more of a individualized thing. It's less of a strategic area. There's not necessarily a certain area we're looking to enforce that. That's just a citywide thing, so it's not necessarily part of this plan. Number 7 under noise is construction, maintenance, and nuisance noise. We do the enforcement for the construction hours that are restricted in the city, so that folks on the hill and in the residential neighborhoods aren't getting woken up at 6:30 on a Sunday morning by people doing construction. Or if they are, we can go out and take action. And usually that's just an advisal. Most of the time we tell the contractor once, and that's all we have to do. So the big one, the big element in this plan that touches us is safety. It's pretty obvious. Public safety is our mission. Almost every goal under there impacts us somehow. So I highlighted the top 3 that I think are the biggest issue for us. And this is pretty much the core of the 2035 plan for the PD. So goal 1 out of safety was emergency response and preparation. We saw a little bit of that in the last 2 weeks. Didn't touch us as directly here, but we definitely touched some of our mutual aid responses. We have an all-hazard plan that we've developed going back over 10 years. And it's our own plan, separate from the city, just for our own operations and how we address emergencies, disasters, unusual occurrences. We have what we call the book also, which is some ready reference material. So watch commanders, sergeants in the field, division commanders have access to a hard copy book. So at 3 o'clock in the morning when something's going on, you can pop it open, look, and have some reference materials, checklists, response plans. That's also on our network, our computer network, for access to anybody. Also do a lot of forecasting. There's a lot of just sitting around and talking about what might happen and what would we do. Our big forecast for 2024 was the elections. What's going to happen? What are we going to be facing? Are we going to be facing demonstrations, civil unrest? So going back to January of 2024, we were working on plans, training, getting equipment, working with our mutual aid partners to make sure we were ready for whatever may happen. And as is often the case, the more we plan for something, the less likely we are to have to respond to it. So far, things have been good. 1.2 talks about disaster preparedness and emergency response with appropriate neighboring agencies. So we are mutual aid partners in Area C for LA County. That's us, Glendale, Pasadena, San Fernando, Alhambra, Monterey Park, a couple other smaller agencies in San Gabriel Valley. We have a mutual aid coordinator assigned from our department, a lieutenant and a sergeant. They are in regular communication with our partners on almost a weekly basis. They have monthly meetings. There's regular training, joint training exercises that we have that we go to or that we host here. And we put that to the test a little bit in this last week. That was a big response. We had anywhere between 4 and 5 officers and a sergeant deployed over to Pasadena on the Eaton Fire, pretty much on a rotating basis from last Tuesday night up through about this Tuesday. And Pasadena has settled. They're out of crisis mode, so they're in kind of the slow grind now. They have National Guard and Sheriff's folks there, so we have kind of pulled back on an on-call status there. Police protection, also a big goal. This is what we do. So number one listed on that is response times. Our standard response time that's listed is 4 minutes or less for an emergency response. Going to last year, 2024, our average was 3 minutes and 21 seconds. 2025, we're not too far into the year, but we're doing pretty good so far. Last week was 2:25, and I'm sorry, yes, this last week was 2 minutes and 25 seconds, and the previous was 2 minutes and 20 seconds. That's a little bit of an anomaly in the short direction, but we'll take it. Our average to most calls for service, if you just talk about general calls for service, is about 17 minutes. Staffing, it's another one. We made a lot of progress in staffing for sworn in 2024. We have a lot of new officers that are in training. We're going to look to continue that. We are projecting staffing needs. We are looking at expanding our CSO program to help pick up some of that load. We're looking to expand LAS. I do believe we need to look at the size of the city and the growth potential there and probably do some workload studies to assess whether 160 is the right number still or if that's changed. Facilities, we're maximizing the use of our existing facilities. We haven't built any new ones, but just in our station, we are just about done with an expansion of our property and evidence room storage for long-term storage. We have a lot of new officers. We have a lot of new field training officers. And we recognize that the existing field training program facility was not big enough, so we have expanded that. We took over some storage rooms that weren't being used, expanded that. So we're always looking at how to maximize what we have in facilities. Probably one of our next things is going to be looking at our range facility and ways we can modernize that. Equipment, you heard Sergeant Turner's presentation on AB 481. We're always investing in equipment. We're preparing for civil unrest. We invested a lot in equipment for any sort of mobilization there, including some crowd control barrier equipment. We've worked with the city to invest in equipment for meridian barricades, which are the vehicle barricades for blocking off streets. You'll see them when you go out to the events. They kind of look like a little dolly. They're very heavy, designed to stop a vehicle. We invest heavily in PPE, our personal protective equipment. The folks going out to the fires, we have kits of goggles and N95 masks, gloves, vests, everything that we can to help protect our folks when they're deployed on those. Technology, body-worn cameras, in-car cameras have been a development during this plan. We just onboarded our new CAD RMS system, which is a big deal for us, keeping us current. And then we have a force options simulator. So it's basically it's a large movie screen where basically you can have a situation play out in front of you. The officers have simulated equipment and an instructor who can guide them through a scenario. Depending on how they talk to the suspect, they may de-escalate and the person may give up, or they may have to deploy some of their force option. But it's a very good, in-the-moment decision-making tool. Other technology for crime prevention, we have a lot of investigative databases we use. We've had a big success with our deployment of automated license plate reading cameras. Those have been a huge tool for us in mitigating criminal activity, especially around like the Empire Center in that area. Other crime prevention programs, we're familiar with our Neighborhood Watch. We do retail crime seminars for owners, social media bulletins about scams, and Sergeant Turner also does plan reviews, so when buildings are being built, so we can make suggestions about lighting, security measures, things to mitigate traffic issues, to help through the design of the project to help mitigate issues. And public education, familiar with our community academy, our social media presence, our traffic safety program with BUSD and the Drive Right campaign. We do a lot of outreach there, and that's guided by this plan. Last thing through safety and BPD will be crime prevention and adapting to the changing needs. So in this time period, the MET team was onboarded early on in this, where there was a recognized need for a change in how we did business. We recognized a significant increase in DUIs. We staffed up a DUI team in our traffic bureau. When we had issues with, or concerns especially about flash mob thefts from stores, we put a detective out with a retail crime task force so that he was working with other agencies to address that issue. We have retail theft details during peak holiday shopping periods, and like I mentioned, we're joining up with this street racing task force to address that changing need. So the overall takeaway is any plan, whether it's Burbank 2035, whether it's our strategic plan or a tactical plan, flexibility is key. We have to adapt. We have to make our processes and our plans fit the situation. We can't pound that situation into trying to make it fit the plans that we have in place. So we're always looking at our plans and updating as we go along. For the department overall, the 2035 plan is a very general roadmap, and it's kind of the chiefs and the command staff's job to take that, digest it, and turn it into something that is actionable for the folks who are out there doing the work. And that's what we seek to do. So with that, you have any questions?
Fantastic. I do have some comments, but I wanted to open it up to our other commissioners first. Okay.
I got two.
Paul, go ahead.
The blinking in traffic, blinking yellow lights, those are kind of out of the norm and something we've adopted. Have you noticed any, I apologize, any concerns with those? I mean, I would think that if you don't live in the city, those are confusing.
I think with any change, we sometimes hear some concerns. I haven't heard a lot of concern about it, and it's not entirely unique to us. I do see it in other cities around. With any change, there's always a little bit of momentary hesitation and concerns and what's going on. I know we did field some phone calls about it to begin with, but I think for the most part, people have settled into it, and it's not completely unique to us, so people from around the area seem to be pretty familiar with how to react.
And second, the Chief Albanese at one point in time had mentioned the possibility of either red light or stop sign cameras for enforcement. Is that something that's still in the works?
I don't know that it's in the works. I mean, it's something that could be explored, but typically that's going to come through the traffic engineering division out of Public Works. We would probably work with them on that, but I haven't heard any conversation about it recently.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mike, go ahead.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I'm the one who asked for this, and it's great to hear all this information. My concern has always been the city is under an obligation under SB 35 to increase housing. I worry that we've been with the number 160 for years, decades, as the right number for the staffing of the PD. I just want to make sure that we're ahead of the game as population rises rather than we're trying to play catch-up.
Understood, yeah. I don't disagree with you. More people is probably not going to lead to less demand for police services. Right. But also recognize we have to be good stewards of public money, as my boss would say. And so we're going to need to have something to justify these asks. I can go in and tell somebody, I think that we're going to need more police officers because we're going to have more people, but I'm going to need something more concrete than that. Yeah. And that's going to be on us to do some studying.
I'm from private industry. You ask for the moon and you accept half.
Rummick, go ahead.
Deputy Chief, again, congratulations on your new position. Just kind of picking back on what Commissioner Elman said, do you know what the national average is? Is it like 2.3 officers per 1,000 residents, or what does that look like for cities like us?
I don't know off the top of my head. I would I could speculate, but that's,
Sure.
we're not in the business of that.
Oh, no, of course, of course. Yeah, because I know that I had a similar question in regards to that as far as staffing, because obviously with more people coming into the community with the new developments, you're looking at what, 8 to what, 12,000 units, if I'm not mistaken? I know there's a range between that. 12,000? Wow. Good. Thank you, Councilmember Mullins. 12,000 people, assuming 2 people per unit, minimum 24,000 people. Of course, I'm sure public safety will be a concern. So yeah, absolutely. I think that, I don't know what the right number would be, but I think from what I read, this is the national average, about 2.3 per 1,000 officers, but usually for cities like Burbank, it could be 1.8 officers per 1,000. So, I mean, obviously increasing is just a natural thing to do. And also, the facility-wise, like, would the Burbank Police Department be able to hold more officers, or would you need more space, or how would that work?
So there's a yes and no to that. I think we could make it work with more officers, but we are in need of more space.
Fantastic.
And we have worked our way through and modified about as much as we can as far as the actual space that is there.
Gotcha. I guess I'm sure, assuming with council, I know me and Councilor Mullins spoke about this topic, but yeah, okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for that. And also, the only other thing is for street racing task force. I love that. It's fantastic. Just out of curiosity, in regards to policy, like, is there any policy recommendations you guys would be making in regards to like stricter regulations around like reckless driving and street racing and things like that, or?
Well, it's very case specific. We do make some recommendations. We made a recommendation this last year, if you recall, on prohibited items at demonstrations, because we recognize the need there, and there was something that the city could enact to help with governing that. A lot of driving behavior, there's the California Vehicle Code is the superior legislation there, and we can't enact a bunch of BMCs that are going to counter that or be in conflict with it. So we can suggest legislation, we can suggest things, we just have, in this environment within the city, we have to stay in our lane.
Gotcha. I appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm. That was a flashback, because I remember early on, like 3 years ago, we were talking about possibly proposing legislation and realized that we probably should work with our liaisons first and then with city council before we start proposing legislation. So I'm with you on that. I'm actually, my comments actually follow, Mike, what you and Romick were kind of going with as well. Excluding LAPD and Sheriff's Department, I was poking around in a lot of the, I think that leaves like 86 cities or something like that in, I'm sorry about that, it's my daughter and she's gonna have to wait. 86 cities or so, it's an average of about 1.6 officers per 1,000 residents. And so based on city of Burbank, if we were at about 100,000, that would put us at the 160 mark. We're at about 105, 107,000 right now. One of the things that I know the 2035 plan, and I think it's a prior iteration of the Burbank 2035 plan, is that the estimated population in 2035 is going to be 116,000 in Burbank. So just kind of back of the napkin calculations would, in using the 1.6 number, that would put us at about 186 officers that we would need, using that 1.6 per 1,000, which also, I mean, I remember a prior presentation where it was about $250,000 a year per officer. Big ballpark average for the cost per officer, which includes training and salaries and benefits and all that kind of stuff, which would be an additional $36 million in the budget. So I just wanted to throw that out there, because this is part of what we do, is we want to provide, there's much smarter people that are advising the city council than us, but I want to make sure we put that information out there, and we were doing our own homework as well, to start to think about, to start to have that conversation about what is the cost impact of if we needed to expand the department. You were talking about space earlier, but we need to be talking about dollars and advocating there wherever we can, working with our liaisons and working with city council and the city manager around that. So I just wanted to throw those numbers out there, because I worked really hard on them. But also that it's a significant impact. 26 officers is a large number of officers to house, to train, to recruit, especially in this environment. I'm just really, are we still at or near the 160 mark for officers right now?
I believe we're in the low 150s right now.
Okay.
There's constant turnover, but
Right,
we have actually,
right.
I have to give a lot of credit to our personnel bureau. In this last year, we onboarded a lot of people.
which is fantastic. I know a lot of us were shocked that we got up to 156 of the 160 positions filled. So, and again, as you identified, people are going to be in different various levels of training and preparation for the field, or people may be deployed or redeployed as well. So that's a number that we want to take a look at for the future. And I think we as a commission can do some homework around that as well, so we can help advise and advocate for what proper numbers may look like. Last comment on that is I really appreciate the strategy that the city has been doing around bringing in LAS parking, that is bringing in different resources, because what that does is that hasn't adversely impacted the 160 number. What that's done is it's allowed the 160 to focus on police work in the community and take away some of the other responsibilities that can be done by outside organizations to allow a lot of the specialization that's happening within the police department. And we can go on and talk about the different specialized units that I think we're all familiar with. So I appreciate that element of strategy that's been applied to how to use the force with the numbers that we have. Mike, you got a comment?
Just a question. The anticipated use of community officers in terms of workload reduction for officers.
So our anticipated use of them, parking, impounding vehicles, basic traffic collision investigations, what we would term a cold property crime report, something where there's no suspect information, there's no suspect on scene, there's not a lot of follow-up investigation to be done. Somebody just simply needs to report it so that we have it documented and we can investigate if some leads get generated. As far as a percentage number of what it's going to reduce for officers, I don't exactly know, but that's our intended use for them. They can do traffic control. They can also do some of the community outreach work. They're going to be kind of our Swiss Army knife civilian employee.
Substitute crossing guards? Maybe?
Maybe, in a pinch, if somebody is off sick, maybe, cool. Because especially because it's that limited time window of drop off and pickup.
Yep.
Number of community officers.
We have 2 approved in the budget right now. Those are in the hiring process, and we expect to be asking for an increase in that, probably about 3 more.
And they will work what shift? What time of the day?
So vision right now is to have the first 2 are going to be assigned to traffic. So they will most likely be in a day watch capacity, probably talking about 6 in the morning till 6 in the evening, maybe with some sliding scale there. I'm going to leave that to my traffic bureau commander to decide where he needs them most. The remainder
Maybe schools.
Mm-hmm. The next ones to come on will be most likely going to be assigned to patrol shifts. So probably working day watch and our mid-watch shift with patrol to help take some of that workload off so that the officers can focus more on some of the enforcement and investigative side of what they do.
Great. Thank you so much.
Mike, thank you. I neglected to look over to this side. Any comments from this side of the gallery?
I'm glad you did look over here. Yeah, I do have a couple of questions. The broader picture, the 2035 general plan. Is there a 2036 general plan? 2037 is what? Why are we focused on that? And what's the? Well, go ahead.
So the answer from me is going to be I don't know why that was picked. We would probably have to ask the folks in 2013, but I believe there was some legislative direction given to cities about having a plan focused on 2035, and I think that number, they had to pick a number.
It's been around for a while, right?
It has been.
And it was our department involved in its development at one point?
I'm sure we had some input in the city's 2035 plan with the things that were germane to us. Neither I or probably any of the other folks in this room were in that level of the organization at that time, but typically of any sort of planning with the city, if it affects multiple departments, the departments have some input on the development of it.
The guys were talking about the number of officers per thousand and things like that. Does our plan allow for anything like, what's the new AI?
Mm.
Do you use AI in developing a plan future down in 2 areas? One is for developing policy.
Mm.
and the other is in developing efficiency in the department?
So I'm going to say is my experience and what I've seen from AI in a public safety driven organization, it's not there yet. I would say it's not there yet. If somebody has a private enterprise and they choose that they want to try it out and do things, I think that's fine. The public safety mission is a no-fail mission, and it's not there yet. I've seen some AI report writing platforms, and it's close, but no. So not yet. I would need to see it develop quite a bit more before I would be comfortable putting that task on it.
And I guess following that was a suggestion that maybe the general plan is dynamic.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Changing all the time, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, like I said, we have to change our plans and our tactics to fit the situation that we have in front of us. And the situation we have in front of us in 2025 is probably different than it was in 2013, and it's going to be different in 2035.
Layla, go
Thank
ahead.
you for your presentation.
Yes, thank you for both your presentations. So one was a sort of related question to the topic that you raised, which was AI, which I know everybody, it's on everybody's mind, but I'm guessing when this plan was created years ago, there was not, there was, the idea of AI, but it wasn't something that's in people's everyday life. And now, of course, unfortunately, that means there are crimes relating to AI and fake images and different kinds of things, right? So I'm just wondering if that's part of the flexibility of this plan that the department has seen and gotten, those type of reports, and is that something that you all are developing, strategy or policy around?
So again, and it all, it depends on the laws, but so the plan in general as it doesn't specifically address AI, but it does address technology and technology for crime prevention. So that it falls under that umbrella because I think they recognize that you're not going to sit here today and predict what's going to be out there 22 years from now with any accuracy. But we do have a number of investigators who work computer forensics, work computer crimes, and there is no shortage of work for them. So we are constantly, and they are constantly learning and adapting. And if I don't read about what they're doing for a month, then I'm going to be completely lost because things have changed. But yes, we do investigate the computer crimes, and we do have a group of people who keep up with that.
Okay. And then my second question is, relating to the fires this past week in LA, and you mentioned the different elements, and one of them was air quality and climate change. And I'm just wondering if there's any, insight that the department has, as a result of the most recent, incident that can shed some light, or you have recommendations for council from the, public safety standpoint, but relating to that and anticipating that these type of events may, become more frequent or things like that. And
so I think I would be straying out of my lane in the police side of things to talk about air quality. The AQMD has put out some information, recently, and there are some fire-related things for the police, but I think talking about air quality and that's probably going to be outside of my
I just
my
meant
area.
like climate change events that may be tied to climate change, right? Like the fires, and then there's a public safety element to those, right? And that becomes like could become overwhelming for the department, right? In the case of Pasadena, right? And have to pull folks in, or just if there's any sort of additional training or things like that.
So what it really comes down to
would
is
make
planning.
sense.
We do training, we do cross training, but it really comes down to planning. So for me right now, the fire crisis has abated. We're in the grind right now. Like I said, the next thing I'm looking at, especially if I'm in Pasadena, is the mudslides, because that's what's going to come following that. So in that sense, that is part of our plan. We're always looking what next. Here's where we are. We've got things stabilized. So what's next?
I'm going to go Ann and then Mike.
Yeah, I wanted to come up with a question. Looking ahead at the Olympics, Are we aware of any usage of Burbank facilities? And might that affect demands on our police department?
I'm not aware of any use of facilities for Olympic events. I would anticipate maybe something at the Equestrian Center, which isn't technically Burbank, but is right outside. What I would anticipate is a lot of lodging of athletes, lodging of visitors here, and that's going to have an impact.
So is that something that on the schedule of now to 2035 in here is Olympics that you are looking at?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Good
That is
question.
part of some of the equipment acquisition, some of the staffing. A lot of that is in response to what we see coming in 3 years.
Perfect, thank you.
I want to ask related to that real quickly before we come back to Mike, is just to clarify, it's the 2035 plan is the city's plan, and the police department is a part of that. It's not the police department's plan. So the city has put out some parameters, and the police have had to respond to questions and to participate in that. But I just wanted to emphasize that it's not the police department's 2035 plan, it's the city's 2035 plan. Good. Mike, go ahead.
Since we came back to the subject of the fires, last week, the false emergency alerts that went out. Now, I was here for the Latuna fire, and the way I found out about the evacuation was patrol cars going up and down the street on their loudspeakers. If there is a fire in our local hills, who is making the judgment on evacuation? The police, fire, counties? Or?
The fire department has the lead on declaring where an evacuation area is going to be. The police department are basically the arm that then goes out and ensures it's done and done in an orderly fashion.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you. I also want to make sure we stay focused on the plan, but I'll let you go to your question, Paul, but
Well, I agree. You said not air quality, but enforcement. Common sense, I have a fireplace. Common sense, we haven't used it in the last week, but I've seen on social media that hasn't been so common. Is there, for air quality, there's a website to go to that says because of air quality, today's a no burn day. Is there some way that we could incorporate that into either Burbank social media or the Burbank 311 page that said, because of fire conditions, because of wind conditions or whatever, fires are not permitted or not recommended at this time?
I'm sure we could, and I'll need to talk to my colleague over at Fire because I believe that they do link some things, especially weather-related bulletins. But I'm sure that can be done, and I'll need to talk with my counterpart over there because I think some of that may be happening. But it's probably not on our page, but it could probably.
311. It's just a simple. It's already there. It's a great asset.
So, Romick, I just want to let you know that council is within striking range of where you're sitting.
Oh, yeah.
So you want to make sure you stay
I
focused
will
on
not
the
talk about the
2035
fires, I
plan and the
promise.
police department. Go ahead.
No conversations about fires. Deputy Chief, in regards to, I know, in the topic of technology, I know in 2035, I believe there was an ordinance for the governor that, no more gas-powered vehicles will be sold, a lot of electric vehicles will be sold. And with the electric vehicles comes self-driving. It was the self-driving capability. Are those conversations you guys are having around like what that's going to possibly look like and how you guys would respond to that?
We have been looking, yes, we talk with our fleet manager as far as especially like the acquisition of our own vehicles.
Sure.
For our own fleet and what that looks like and what that looks like for infrastructure for us. And then, again, that's a lot of the self-driving vehicles. There's going to be some statewide legislation involved there that we'll be tasked with enforcing.
Sure. And I know in LA, I saw I guess the service is called Waymo, driverless cars. I don't know how that works specifically. Like, are they allowed to go anywhere? Does a specific city have to approve that type of service to work in the city? And how would that affect like the PD?
I would have to research it, but I believe that is something that cities individually are
responsible
authorizing or not. Kind of similar to how they were authorizing, say, bird scooters or the Lime scooters. And some
Sure.
cities were saying no to they geofence the operation.
Gotcha. I appreciate that. I stayed away from the fire, I promise.
You did, and it was adjacent to the report. So, council's agreeing on that. So we're good now. Leila, did you have anything else? Okay. Any other comments, questions? I really appreciate this. Just a note. We've been having the police department's 2035 plan has been on the agenda, on the bench basically for months, if not years. So I just really appreciate the presentation tonight, and that we were able to spend this much time with it. So just really appreciate being able to spend time with it, and feels like a success for the commission that we got this one resolved. And I think, Mike, you were the one that originally, way back in the olden days, wanted this presentation to be made. So I just appreciate that we were. Exactly. So I'm glad that we were able to make that happen. So, Deputy Chief, thank you so much for your presentation. We have one more item for tonight before we get into general announcements. Back from the Deputy Chief. We'll get you back in a little bit. And I also want just to acknowledge the time, because I know it's getting a little bit late, and this is an invitation to have Councilmember Mullins join us as well. You're welcome to have a seat at up. We were going to try to get you up here with us, but there's no way to do this. But if you wouldn't mind, you can join us at one of the front tables with the microphone. This is item G5, and was continued over from November. This is a review of trainings received by the Executive Ad Hoc Subcommittee to evaluate a vision mission statement, and the discussion was to include City Council liaisons for guidance to draft a proposed statement. So this was an item that we carried over because we wanted to ask for City Council's participation in this. Does everybody by chance have a copy of this? Was from the November meeting. I've got an electronic version. So I'm going to let these 2 copies go, and I believe that there are copies at the outside for folks as well. I'm going to bring up my electronic version of it. And a little bit of background on this. We talked about this back in, give me 1 second as I grab this. We talked about this back in November, that I believe it was myself, Mike Ellman, and Romick had met as an executive subcommittee to discuss how to explore this. So we met over breakfast to have a little bit of a discussion, and we were talking about 2 specific trainings. This is for everybody's kind of recollection. We talked about 2 specific trainings that were assigned by the City Council for either full commissions and boards or for members of commissions and boards to participate in. One of the trainings was put together by Jim Uhl, and that was building a purpose statement that inspires and drives team performance. There we go. And then the second training was a training that was required a year later. This was the National League of Cities training, implicit bias training in August of 2022. And so the purpose of those trainings, my understanding, was to really influence how boards and commissions are operating. And so we spent a little bit of time talking about the trainings, and we also spent some time talking about the charge from the municipal code and the city council to what we're doing as the police commission. And one of the things that we really wanted to emphasize is this discussion, and we don't believe these trainings are designed to modify the municipal code or to modify the charge to the police commission. It had to do, in the case of the Jim Uhl training, about building a purpose statement, was to find a way to draw in and really collect the energies of each board and commission to do the work that we're doing. And then the second training was very straightforward, was about implicit bias and how public policy can really can include, and we need to be vigilant about implicit bias in public policy. So the purpose of this discussion right now is to revisit some of the material from those trainings, just to kind of do a quick review, but also specifically to invite Councilmember Mullins. Councilmember Rosati, I know, can't be here this evening. That's okay. He's new to it also. He's taking a lot in. But Councilmember Mullins, I can't remember if you were on the city council at the time that the city council decided to have all boards and commissions do this, or if you were, or I think you were just joining city council right about that time, if I recall. So you might not have the information yourself, but what we're looking to do is to partner with you in this discussion about what would it look like for our board, our commission, to try to incorporate the purpose-driven statement, and what would it look like for our board to really invest in the implicit bias training to make sure that we're applying it, and what's your vision and the city council's vision for that for us?
So good evening again.
Good evening.
I believe I was the city clerk at the time when the previous council discussed it. So I don't honestly recall 100% the exact dialogue, but I know that in our discussions as the current council, in our vision for our boards and commissions, of course, we have what we call as our guideline, which is the book that we follow by boards and commissions and the rules and regulations and what every board and commission have been assigned to do. And the purpose for their existing and assignment is to be our liaisons to council and kind of direct basically what you're doing right now with staff, directing them to come back and provide you information. So what I want to say is we can definitely create, and I know we had some emails and dialogue. You know, you've been very generous in sending us updates and emails. I want to make sure that we are looking at our guidelines in the book, the handbook that we have for boards and commissions, and we're staying within those guidelines, not creating new guidelines, because I know probably the city attorney and staff can jump in at any time. We would have to change the look of what the commission is that is developed already in the guideline.
Right.
So if we take that book and we go line by line and see what the purpose and existing our goal for the commission and utilize maybe some of the wordings that you want to change, I think that probably can be accomplished, but the council will have, as a whole, would have to bless it. And I'm happy to work with you on it, as long as we're not going in a different direction from what the intent was originally.
Right. I agree. I think I've got some notes I've got some notes on the page that, let's see, what our responsibility is. So the commission's responsible for monitoring we'll monitor the Burbank Police Department to achieve and maintain a culture of respect and professionalism through accountability and transparency in all actions. And there's other notes through this as well that come directly from the municipal code. So we want to make sure we include that. My sense from the Jim Uhl training is to inspire why and how we do the work. And so I may be beating a dead horse on this, and I want to acknowledge that, because the culture, and I want to hear from all of you, but the culture that I've experienced over the past 4 years on the commission, and this is a conversation that I've had with Councilmember Mullins, with other council members as well, is something's changed a little bit. I mean, even if it's something as simple as calling each other by our first name or willing to engage each other. A lot of the ad hoc committee work, subcommittee work that we've been doing outside has been a bit of a change, I think, from what we've been doing in the past. Conversation with Mike after the last meeting, actually, I think we were talking about how you enjoyed the last meeting, I think it was. And so I'm just appreciating the camaraderie that's happening. And so I want to hear from all of you. I don't know if when we took the training, it was kind of giving us a roadmap, the Jim Uhl training. It gave us a roadmap on how his language from the title was building a purpose statement that inspires and drives team performance. So it might not necessarily have been about the purpose statement itself, but it might have been about how do we drive and inspire team performance. And I'm kind of happy with how we've been doing lately. So I'd love to hear from all of you about your thoughts on this. Mike, go ahead.
Did all commissions get this training from Jim Uhl?
I think, if I recall, there were representatives from each commission and board that were required to participate. We were assigned cohorts, and I know I took the training. Who else was involved in that training? Layla and Roman?
I think the majority, yeah.
Okay. I don't know if everybody was, though. Paul, I think this was before you joined the commission.
Yeah, I just think that we need consistency, that we don't have one commission doing business one way and another commission, let's just say the infrastructure, doing business a different way, that whatever we come up with, it should be the same for everybody, and not have like, oh, we're the police commission, we got it together, and because I think if we're doing the job that we've seen improvement, we should be willing to share it with the other commissions. And maybe other commissions will say, well, we even have a better way. I think that's one of the things that's very hard in this role, is we don't get to share with other commissioners. I've attended other commissioners' meetings, and I find them very insightful and interesting. but I can say they're not like us, and maybe they shouldn't be like us.
I appreciate that reference, Mike. Paul, go ahead.
This just means I'm old, but after 20 years, and this is my third commission, I was on the Transportation Commission, moved to Traffic and Transportation until I was dissolved, went back to Transportation and came here. We did at times meet together, Transportation and Traffic and Transportation, because there were overlap. So just like when we meet with the City Council, that's not unprecedented. So I agree with you with the cooperation. But I would say, and we talked about this early on when I first came on the commission, for the most part, we are doing things in a format very similar to what I've seen for 20 years. I do think because of outside, I want to say activities or events, whether it be Coffee with the Cop or whether it be homeless, we work together more outside the commission than most commissions do. I think most commissions see each other once a month. As a group, we probably see each other at least twice a month, if not more, depending on the time of year. So that, I think, gives credit to what you're saying about our ability to work together. But when it comes down to the mission, I think one of the two most valuable parts of being on a commission, I believe, are every one of us has a different social group. Someone's going to feel more comfortable asking Ann a question than me. And I don't know the answer, but I know who to ask. That's my only asset. And also with the reports that both the police department or the different entities give us, it gives them a chance to just organize their thoughts and make a presentation. And I don't think, verbalizing something is a way of organizing, a way of being condensed. And I think it's efficient, but more importantly, our ability to ask the questions and then communicate that to the members of our community, because my opinion, that's our role.
And as we go around, I realize it'll be helpful to get other input as well. So I'd really, in addition to commissioners, I'd actually like to invite Deputy Chief Cornelius, Ray, we'd love to have you involved. Sherry, we'd love to have you involved in your input as well as we talk about how
Sherry said no bother.
How are we working together? So it's not just the purpose of the commission, but how we're working together. So Paul, I really appreciate your comments. Romit, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Coombs. I think that developing a purpose statement is important, but also the second question you have to ask is how do you fulfill that purpose, right? So kind of like a guide of like how that purpose is realized. I think that the biggest trouble that we had when we first got on the commission was like not knowing how to navigate ourselves. And I think that preparing the next group of commissioners that are going to come for decades, maybe hopefully another 100 years or whatever it is, they have an understanding of like when you're on the commission, there's a purpose, and the way you fulfill that purpose is based on these specific guidelines, based on the way we've kind of interacted and the things that we've done on this commission for the last, we're almost 4 years now. And I think that's how we can possibly create that purpose statement based on what we've already done and what's been working and what Ray hasn't yelled us for. But
again, still within striking distance.
Still within striking distance, exactly. So, no, I apologize about that. No, but at the same time, it's like just basically what the purpose is should be based on what we've done. And also, I think the second part is like, how do we create a specific guide for the next commissioners that are set to take our place?
That may be the thing.
Yeah.
If I can add something, I think calling it a purpose statement may not be appropriate. I think you all have a purpose statement in the charter.
Yeah.
It's the question of why you were on this commission and how you intend to achieve that purpose, right? And it sounds like you want to create a culture of collective understanding of how you all will approach that and achieve that purpose. So I think that's the better question that we should be addressing is why you each are on the commission and what you see needs to happen going forward to achieve the purpose as set forth in the charter.
Yeah. And I appreciate what Councilmember Mullins said earlier about that, because it sounds like you're clear. We're clear, collectively clear on what the purpose and the mission of the commission is. As Ray is bringing up, it's how we do that work together. And Romik, you made a comment about how do we create a guide to get people to do that. That may actually be the hard part, because the what we're supposed to do is pretty clear. And I think we're clear on that, Mike. I know that's You've been emphasizing that for us ever since we started this conversation about having this thing, responding to this training. It's the how we go about doing it.
Yeah.
That's hard to bottle. That's hard to bottle. It's almost like Notre Dame making it into the championships. It's hard to bottle. How did it happen? It happened, but how did it happen is the question. Let me look over this way and get your guys' input.
I was just going to say, I second kind of what Roma was saying about a guide, and I think, and then Ray's point about the why, and I think it is personal for each person, right? Obviously,
Yeah.
we're here to fulfill the mission or the purpose, as in the charter, but why personally did I put myself forward, or anybody here, it might be a little different, right? And I think that may be part of the guide, and I mean, I would hope people to ask themselves that when they're applying, right, and thinking to do that, so it's not a new question to them, but in the guide, maybe as part of orienting yourself and being onboarded is just, take like one step is take a moment and sit with yourself and think about why, write 5 sentences about why you want to do this, why are you here, and then other pieces can be more logistical, right, around how you work with council, how you, like, for example, don't come to the first meeting and propose a piece of state legislation, that's not going to be productive, right? But what are these, all those kinds of things, right?
Yeah.
And even just a rundown of what the current opportunities are, right, with the department, right? There are the DUI checkpoints, there are the coffee with the cop, there are other ride-alongs and things like that. These are ways you can, meet officers personally, and meet with the community and find out about what they do and experience that, firsthand. Like, these are ways to do that and all these different things, right? Here's the website where you can find the policy guide or the military equipment, links that people be looking for, that kind of stuff. I don't know. In addition to the more, the bigger questions, why am I here? Or how do we work together as a team and all of that too, right?
Thank you, Leila. Ann, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that we are individuals. We have a common purpose. We have a future that we need to work towards in terms of our city, our police department specific. But I think that it also stems from our, I forgot the word I was going to use, our intent, our commitment. Why do individuals come to a commission? Do we, as an individual, do we see a problem that we may feel need to be fixed? Do we want to look to the future? Are we here to better our children, our grandchildren? Well, our individual purpose, it comes from perhaps both seeing what we want to fix, make better, as well as having an eye to the future, right? And this commission affords a lot of opportunity to personally engage in that process. Yeah. Go out and help count the homeless, help talk to them, find out what do we need to know so we can take a problem and work together to repair, to make better. And I think that might be the difference, at least with this commission. There are many hands-on opportunities. I haven't been on another commission, but that's what I see as our purpose and our commitment as to what's our intent? Why are we here? Why did we want to be here?
Appreciate that. Paul?
It's also the view of the city. At one point in time, this is 15, 18 years ago, Olive Park's parking lot had pretty much become an RV park. And it wasn't necessarily a problem to anybody, except at the time, my 24-year-old was an 8-year-old, and when he went to use the restroom when he was playing t-ball, he was told he couldn't use it, we live here. So that piece of information coming back, that wouldn't have come back if it wasn't for someone who knew who to report it to, or who felt comfortable. So like I said, Romic's got a daughter in high school. I have a son in college. We all have different fingers in the part of the city, and every one of those are important. And we, as a group, collectively can say what is being served and what we think may need improvement. I think what makes the commission work is how responsive both the city council and the police department have been to us. I don't think we've ever heard anybody say you're overstepping your bounds. Maybe the city, maybe the city attorney will say, hey, slow down a little. But for the most part, even if we overstep our bounds, someone will say, I'll get back to you.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes Burbank Mayberry, and I also think that's what makes the commissions work.
Yeah, and we shouldn't propose state legislation.
That was next meeting.
Let me jump over here. I haven't heard from Mike yet, so I want to hear from Mike, and then we'll come to you, Romick.
This discussion, all sorts of things are going
Uh-huh.
off. I've been around a long time.
Oh,
And
Gotta talk to
it's
Mike.
on. I'm sorry. And I've sat on the other side watching city council, different city councils over the years, trying to work together. Not so much I've watched the police for as many years, but it's very interesting watching councils. And I'm not sure it's exactly, there's a team plan. It's the individuals and how they cooperate with each other. And it's not, well, I think our police department, you may have a statement about the department, but that doesn't really control the culture. It's a bigger picture than that. And trying to change that is a heck of a job. And I think the statement here will probably be developing a statement would be very helpful. But again, I think it still comes down to the people that we have here are, and I'm not just complimenting you guys. It's just that everybody seems to be working together, which is just the perfect way it should go, you know?
Appreciate that. We're going to go Romick, Mike, and I do want to open it up to other folks as well. Romick, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Combs. I think that in regards to, sorry, I was like blanking out for a second. Come back to me.
We'll come back to you.
me.
Mike, go ahead.
Well, I think our role is pretty much spelled out in the charter. And I think it's not, and truthfully, it's not about us. We are, I'll use an old term because I'm an old person, we're public servants. We're here to serve the public. And we are a group, and I think our job is communications, which is we help the public ask questions to the police department, and we help the police department get their answers to the public. I think we are here to serve the public as a conduit of information.
Appreciate that. Romick, go ahead.
Sorry about that.
Thanks, Mike.
I just regained consciousness. No, just to piggyback on what Mike was saying, is I think the general themes are community engagement. The other theme is being an advisor to council, being a thought partner for the council, making recommendations, and also being a liaison between the police department and the community. And I think those three different themes kind of do define what our purpose is, right? And that's already outlined by the charter. What that means for everyone individually is very different, right? Like community engagement for some of the commissioners might be going to a coffee with a cop event. For somebody else, it's let's do a driver safety campaign, get everybody involved. So you're right, it's absolutely different for everybody else, but it's like, how do you define that, or what does that mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I wanted to open up, come back to Councilmember Mullins, Deputy Chief Cornelius, and Ms. Nakamura, if you wanted to weigh in at all.
She looks so enthusiastic.
Sure, you're like, no.
Sure.
Okay, please.
So I've been the liaison for the commission for probably 13 years now. So I've seen multiple commissions come and go, and everybody seemed to be, tied to what their mission purpose was through the handbook and through the BMC. And I think you're the first group that looked to do different things. And I think like with the driver safety campaign was driven by the police commission. I think that's the first time something that major that included the city and included the department, which stemmed from you first, is admirable. So I think that, I'm not sure if you really need a specific purpose statement. I think you've got the general guidelines of what the BMC and the city would like. And I think you guys are doing a great job in terms of driving what you want to do. And that was one purpose, and perhaps there's the e-bike thing is another one. So I don't think, if you can't come to one specific thing and one purpose, what you're doing now is working well.
Captain? Deputy, I'm sorry, Deputy
Same
Chief.
Same guy. Just
Same guy,
different-
same
different
guy.
things. I'm going to tread carefully because I appreciate the working relationship we have, but I also recognize that the police commission is you're a form of an oversight body for
Yeah.
us. So I don't want to put a lot of my input into
Mhm.
what you're defining for your purpose statement.
Mhm.
But I would agree, Commissioner Chapman kind of hit on it. There's kind of a saying that culture eats policy. So you can have whatever policy or whatever statement, but it's a culture, and the culture is driven by the people and how you bring in new people when some folks go out. And I think that's probably more important than words on paper. And you also have, if you're looking at what your mission is, it is defined in the charter,
Yeah.
and I think it's your interpretation and your implementation of that mission is what defines the commission.
Okay. Here's what I heard. I was taking some notes through this, and I don't think we need an ad hoc subcommittee to do any work on this or anything like that. But I heard no, not for this. I heard 5 specific things. The first one, first and foremost, know our purpose, which is specifically in the charter. No, we have a responsibility to know what that is. The second is for each one of us to know, why is this personal to you? Why is this personal to me? Why is this personal to each one of you? For those that support us, why is this personal as well? Ray, why is this personal to you? You don't have to answer that, but we need to know that. And I think as a commission, I think we've been able to start to do that individually. The third one, and this is really important, is to know and to be very proactive in thinking about, how are we going to work with each other? I'll be honest. When I first started on the commission, there was some conflict, there was some disagreement, there was some tension that was unspoken. We're in a space now where we know how we're going to work with each other. The fourth item, and Layla, you brought this up when you were talking, was know the technical aspects of the work. What does it mean to be on the commission? How do we get access to information and data? How do we access the website? How do we be responsible as commissioners to do the work and get access to that information? And you brought up the last one is, what is our responsibility to the community? And Paul, you reflected that. Mike, you reflected that as well, is that each of us needs to know that we do have responsibility to the community in that. So again, know the charter, know why this is personal to you, know how you work, how each one of us works with each other, know the technical aspects of the job, and then understand why this is of service to the community. Thoughts on that? Did that capture what we've been talking about? Okay. So it's recorded for perpetuity on YouTube, and we may have Sherry write that into the minutes and everything too. But we may have our. It's not a purpose statement. The purpose is the municipal code. It's really the why behind it, and I think you all named that. Councilmember?
I applaud you, because this is exactly what it needed to take to figure out the purpose, which is written, but now what is individual purpose? And I think it was mentioned more than once, and it's interesting, Commissioner Chapman, you talked about a culture. And I wrote down, even before you say it, you created a culture here among yourself. I literally wrote that just listening to all of you. And Sherry stated it really correct, is you have created a relationship among each other within trying to fit in the purpose of what was assigned to you in the BMC. And each one of you bring that to the table to fulfill your duties that was written for you by your own unique way of what you know what to do. Whether it's a driving campaign or calling somebody because of a camper or bringing any different issues, the e-bike, all these things that are put on the agenda is because each one of you have had a concern or talked to an individual outside of the chamber, and you wanted to bring it and you wanted the public to hear about it, or you heard the public coming in here and speaking about it, so you're bringing awareness. You get to hear the reports before it comes to council. So tonight I heard a couple of reports that I didn't have the privilege to sit on council and hear it, but now when we do, when it comes to us, it's being discussed here, and I hear what you're saying, and I hear your concerns that you brought back from the community. So I think you're definitely doing the right thing, and I think it's so unique about all of you is you each bring something to the table, and you kind of figured out what is your role and responsibility, and what you bring certain niche to this commission that you each have. And you are okay to talk about, you're okay to explore it. And so this is exactly the successful teamwork that we want to see with all boards and commissions. When I was the clerk, I used to have a lot of boards and commissions ask me, I really don't know what I'm supposed to do. What is my role? Your role is exactly what you want it to be and make it. You could sit back in the meetings and sit there and just go on every month and not do anything about it. Or you can be proactive and do exactly what you have been doing here over the last year or two since you're all been together. So you've all figured it out, just, having that really short dialogue, but your purpose is written, and you make it however you want it to be, and you have been very successful bringing a lot of important issues to the chamber to discuss it, having staff providing those reports. So congratulations.
Thank you.
You all figured it out. You
thank
made my
you.
life a lot easier
Good.
sitting here.
and thank you for joining us on this journey as well. Mike, go ahead.
I was just going to say the same thing. It is so refreshing to have our council liaison having two-way communications with us real time.
Good.
And we all get to hear it at the same time.
And so I do thank the chair for allowing me to participate in this, and also the city attorney for not telling me, no, you're not allowed to do it.
Yeah.
It is sometimes helpful to have this dialogue because we don't always have the opportunity to do it publicly and with all of you. But I'm always here if you ever need me to sit here and answer any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And to Deputy Chief Corneal's comment that you didn't want to unduly influence us and everything, I think we're good with that. There's really the one person in the room that will do whatever they tell us to do. It's Sherry. And so, and we all, as long as we all know that, we're going to be okay. So, all right. Thank you all for participating in that. So we're going to move on to, and thank you for taking the time to have that conversation. Item G6 is general announcements by the Deputy Chief, brief announcements regarding upcoming events and/or items of note related to the police department. Deputy Chief Corneals, welcome back.
I am back. Thank you. I'll keep it brief. So like I mentioned before, we're just coming off of a pretty extended mutual aid deployment with the Eaton Fire. It was a long week, but we're on standby now and things seem to have settled. So we will take our lessons learned from that after we do a review and be more ready for the next one. We have a couple speaking of staffing, a couple of graduations coming up. We have one tomorrow for 3 officers who are graduating from the LA Sheriff's Academy. We have another recruit who will begin training at the Sheriff's Academy on February 14th. And then we have 6 other recruits who are in the middle of their academy training and projected graduation in the next few months. Fantastic. So that is moving forward nicely. Last thing I have for you is the Burbank Police Department will be accepting applications for our 40th Community Academy. That's going to be coming up. We're opening that this week. Community Academy is going to be every Thursday, with the exception of one Saturday for 10 weeks, beginning Thursday, February 6th, concluding on Thursday, April 10th. And that is what I have for you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate this.
Sir, Commissioner Chapman.
Good.
May I ask a question? I see tonight on your shields, the flag. What does that represent specifically?
There was a Riverside County deputy who was killed on duty earlier, I believe last week, in a traffic collision.
Great. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. All right, with that, we're moving on to item H, which is the introduction of agenda items for future meetings. We already have agendized. The Traffic Safety Ad Hoc Subcommittee will be reporting out, and we'll be having a discussion there. I also want to flag this. This is on the dashboard, but it actually isn't agendized yet. It's the homeless engagement. Just as a note, I'd like to recommend that we put that on hold because the homeless count has been postponed because of the wildfires. So.
But can we replace with the e-bike presentation that the deputy chief was going to?
Oh, the e-bike. Okay, so we'll have to agendize that. So we'll get there in a minute. We'll do that in a moment. We also have, for May, we already have agendized narcotics activity in the city. Sherry, is narcotics activity in the city clear enough in terms of what the agenda item is? Let's do that in April, but I want to make sure that we come back to that. And what I'm referring to, this was a conversation I had with Sherry earlier, is that we need to be really specific about so we can't just put bike safety. We would want to go specifically traffic incidents related to electric e-bikes or something like that, and collisions or enforcement or something like that. We want to just make sure that we're a little bit more specific as opposed to general topics. So we'll get there and we'll go to that. So with that, I wanted to open up what we want to agendize for February. We already have the traffic safety item. We're having the military equipment presentation will be taking place at 5 o'clock, the hour before the regular police commission meeting starts. So those are already set. What else you got? Sherry?
To go along with the military equipment, I think you guys have agendized a follow-up if there were any recommendations, and if there was nothing, the agenda item just kind of dies.
Okay, so let me go ahead and just throw it out there then too. I'm going to go ahead and motion that we agendize a follow-up in response to the military equipment report. We've got a second from Romick. Everybody in favor? Any opposition? That's unanimous, so thank you for that, Sherry. What else we got? Romick, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. I would like to agendize a report of the impact of the new Assembly Bill 2943. I believe it's, I'm sorry, I was trying to look it on the phone. 1 second. I believe it's in regards to retail theft restrictions and the impact on the Burbank Police Department, and maybe like a brief update on retail theft in the current climate that we're in for the last like 2-3 months. Did we?
Do we?
For the AB 2943? I don't think we have.
Do we?
We did something with retail theft.
Layla, do you remember talking about that last time?
Specific to crimes and where they're happening?
So no, AB 2943 is a new law that just took effect 2025 in regards to the way retail theft is dealt with. In regards to after 2 offenses, it's a felony count. Before it wasn't. So how that's affecting the PD?
Yeah, we said we were going to wait until it went into effect
Got it.
long enough that we would have data.
Okay. Okay.
I'd recommend that as well. So is it okay to withdraw?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you for that, but appreciate you bringing that up. Mike?
Mr. Chair, we had some discussion about the outreach for domestic violence, or possibly outreach for other things, whatever we want to direct that towards, but that was in response to the presentation that was given. Do we want to agendize that and maybe discuss that a little bit farther and see if we want to go anywhere with it?
Let's flesh that out a little bit to specifically what the agenda item is. So if I want to make sure I'm hearing it right, you would like to agendize a discussion on the promotion of resources and information produced by the Burbank Police Department, the promotion in partnership with Burbank Water and Power.
Perfect, yes.
Did we get that right?
Yeah.
So the idea, we did something similar to this a few years ago,
Yeah, 2 years
Romick, I
back.
think,
Yeah.
And so the motion is to have a discussion and an action plan around developing a promotional piece with Burbank Water and Power based on the presentation on domestic violence that was given by the Burbank Police Department in November.
No, there's some options that I know that we can go through, but we have to discuss it at one point. We have to agendize it.
It's a lot of words, but Ray, are you with me? Is this making sense?
I am. I think we just need to make it general enough that you guys can discuss not just BWP, but any promotional materials you want to include as part of this action plan to promote awareness for domestic violence.
Okay.
So we could do something like discussion regarding an action plan for the distribution of promotional material regarding awareness of domestic violence.
I like that. It's good to have a lawyer around.
So is it that you want to create new collateral, or is it you're going to use the collateral that we have already and just disseminate that information? I didn't think you were going to develop new things.
No, I think the plan is, and I think what Mike wants to do, and tell me if I'm getting this wrong, I think Mike is suggesting that we take the information from the presentation in November and we identify and condense messaging that we would like to promote publicly. Ray?
Is that
Mike?
I might go a little differently here.
Okay.
Basically, do we want to put an ad in the BWP bill?
Right.
Or not? And if we do, what options that we have? I don't want to get it all tickled into other things.
I think Ray is recommending widening it a little bit so we can talk about where do we want to promote that material, including the BWP
Okay.
newsletter or BWP bill. So what it does is it's that
Domestic-
focus.
domestic violence
Focus
specifically.
on yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. That's a lot of words. Ray, go ahead. Hold on 1 second. Go ahead.
It's like
You can have a
those
discussion
things going.
regarding the dissemination of promotional material related to awareness for domestic violence.
Good. Mike, good.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I thought we were.
All right. So I got a motion from Mike. I have a second from Mike. All in favor, say aye.
Say Mike.
Any opposition? Excellent. Thank you. And Sherry, I'll work with you on that to work out the details. Thank you both for helping us with that.
Do we have to put a date on that?
I think we're going to do it for February. Yeah. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. We've got three. That makes item number 3 for February that we've got so far. Layla?
This is not for February. It doesn't need to be for
Okay.
February. And I do have a question for Deputy Chief Cornelius around it, related to the agendizing time frame. Is there a way to get a report around how the parking enforcement has changed as a result of having now this third party? I'm not sure. I think they've been there at least a year, right? It's been a while now, right? And also in relation to calls received and understanding that it's not, a one-to-one impact of them, how many calls, come in or don't, but just, how is the number of calls coming in about parking issues gone up, gone down, and, how many, advisals have they given, how many tickets have they written, et cetera, compared to maybe the 2 years prior, whatever it is, that the department was doing on their own, just to see what is, what's the result of this.
Yes, so we've had Laz in working with us for about 2 years. So if maybe you can give me a date range of how far you want to look back, of how far you want a comparison of what we were doing with the civil service group, then yes, I can. That's a very doable report.
An update on City of Burbank parking enforcement strategies since the introduction of the private contractor, which can include a pre and a post kind of a comparison. Okay,
we can do that.
All right.
If I can interject one thing too, I don't know if we need to. I haven't heard an agendizing for the e-bike for next month.
Oh,
because I would like to get that before you, but you're also going to have a very full agenda now because it's going to be the AB 481, which I don't know what that discussion will look like, but I guarantee the e-bike one. I anticipate a lot of discussion there.
You said AB 481?
The military equipment.
Oh, yes.
That's already on there.
Yeah, that's before.
But the e-bike one is one that we would like to get to you before council, and I anticipate.
At the e-bike presentation.
We got to finish this one first. We got to finish Layla's first, and then we'll jump over there. So, Layla, you were suggesting that not necessarily for next month, but possibly in the future.
Right, for the future, wouldn't be for next
So
month.
let's-
And so, on the department's timeline of when you think that's feasible, I don't know.
I believe probably a June time would be good because then we say that's going to give us about a full 2 years with the private contractor.
Okay. So the motion is for a future meeting to
Yes.
have that, and then we
Yes.
just will future pick a date for that. So the motion is
Yes.
future meeting report on parking enforcement. Can I get a second on that?
Do we could just discuss this a little bit at some point?
We're discussing whether we're agendizing it. We're not actually discussing the issue. So I need a sec.
Okay.
So we'll go formal for a minute. I need a second. So I got a second from Paul. We can open it for discussion, and this is specifically on the agendizing of it, not the topic itself.
All right. What I'm thinking is, you're wanting to watch the crime levels, right? You want to see where it's high, low, and in different areas. And what I'm thinking is, maybe I'm mistaken here. There's a crime mapping has been replaced with a different system now that we feed.
We're on parking enforcement.
Yeah, it's not so much,
Yeah.
it's crime, it's the parking, how we have the third party now. So I'm just wondering, they've been here for a while, so I'm just wondering, how many tickets have they written in, it'll be 2 years versus, on average per year versus the department, when they were handling it, and that kind of thing, or how many
Where I'm
calls
going
come in.
is there a system that they can present as part of that agenda that already exists where we can look at it without having to do a lot of detailed work by our officers?
For parking enforcement, no. There's not
There's
going to
no
be,
reporting
there's no
that
dash,
goes
there's no
to the
public
state or
dashboard for that.
somewhere?
No.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
a good question.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Thank you.
Good question. All right, so we've got a motion, we've got a second. All in favor of agendizing that for a future date? Aye. Any opposition? No? Good. Paul, I think you had something, and then Mike, I think you had something. Paul, go ahead.
I make a motion that we add the e-bike presentation by the deputy chief to our agenda for next meeting.
I have a second from Romick. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Awesome. Mike, did you have something?
Something for far in the future.
Okay.
Since we're going to community officers, sometime in the far future, a report on basically what their duties and responsibilities are going to be, and basically in the future, knowing how many things, reports they took care of, kind of a productivity thing, and
What
just an
I may
introduction.
ask is, because we are in the hiring process for our first two, we don't have them on yet. And then we're going to be looking to expand probably a little more, I may ask that for like a 2026 report, because
Yeah, I mean,
that's going
I'd
to
say
give,
far
we're
in
going to
the
need some time
future.
to
Yeah.
generate anything to have to report there.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, we're going in a new direction, and I want to make sure that we're kept in the loop.
Is it okay to hold on to that for now, but not necessarily agendize it for a future meeting? Because I think we're going to get it.
Yeah.
But, okay, perfect. Any other agenda items for February? Romick?
I hope this makes sense. So, agendizing a report of all the new laws that took effect in 2025 that directly impact the police department. It might sound general, but
The new laws.
That's massive.
Yeah,
Is it
yeah.
massive?
That would be massive.
Okay,
That's
then
pretty
never
massive.
mind.
And so let's we're going to use our process real quick. So Romick's making a motion to agendize this item. We need a second on it. We'll get there.
For discussion.
Say we're getting a second for discussion. We're opening it for discussion, and I'm going to recognize the person at the microphone.
Good evening, Viviana Garzon, Police Administrator. Going back to Commissioner Jacobian's comment regarding a summary of the laws that went into effect in 2025, that was actually requested by a council member last night.
Okay.
So staff is already working on that. So when that is distributed to City Council, we can share a copy with you.
Thank you, Ms. Garza. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
I would just like to see, about a year ago, when the jaywalking law was passed, that it was a wonderful presentation on how it affected us. So I understand it's a very broad topic, but I think that the deputy chief can tell us exactly how it pertains to Burbank, and that's what's important.
Which one?
If you give me some
Whatever.
specific
Whatever.
laws, if you give me some specific laws, I can tell you how they
Gotcha.
pertain to Burbank. The annual legislative updates are very large. And so it's a very broad topic to say, tell me about all laws that cover, that impact the city of Burbank.
I don't want to throw it back at you, but you would be more aware of than us of the ones that are going to directly affect our community. Is that possibly an overstatement, or?
I guess at that point, you're leaving it to me to pick and choose what laws I'm going
Yeah.
to present to you. And I would appreciate some specific
Okay.
direction on what it is that you want to see.
Maybe we
There
could.
is, if you go, there, every year, it's broadcast pretty broadly, even on like the local news channels, about laws that have come into being on the 1st of January.
Yep.
And probably if you go on one of the local news websites or go on Google and search that, there can probably be some some ones that you're going to find, because there are going to probably be plenty that don't directly impact us, but I don't want to be put in a position of cherry picking what I'm going to feed you and what
Yeah.
I'm not.
So let's do this. We're going to go ahead and use the proper process. So we have a motion, we have a second, we open it for discussion. So you have what do you got? Go ahead. A discussion about the agendized,
Yes.
the item itself,
Yes.
not the detail.
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
So since there is a report forthcoming for City Council, which we'll see a copy, maybe rather than asking the department to pick what they think is relevant, or, maybe we receive that copy, we can individually look at that and say, okay, these are the 2 or 3 things that jump out at me, and then we can collectively, make an agenda item at that time and ask the department to, present on those.
I like that. So what we're going to do, we're going to see if everybody can play along and do this. Here we go. So we've got a motion, we've got a second. Please, guys, get this right. All in favor of agendizing that item, say aye. All in favor of agendizing that item, say aye. All opposed, say nay. Nay. Any abstentions? No abstentions. It does not pass. We are not agendizing it. We got through it. Any other agenda items for this to recommend for February? All right. With that, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn this meeting, and we will our next meeting date is Wednesday, February 19th, 2025, right here in City Council Chamber at 6 p.m., preceded by the military equipment report in chamber at 5 p.m. Thank you all. Thank you all. Okay.